Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy. The dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Okay, my apologies. I got a little carried away there. I was actually watching a little bit of jury analysis on another stream, and holy cow, time got away from me. That is so much fun. This is part two of Friday. I'm a little tall, a little shorter. That's better. Part two of Fridays. I'm so excited for today. It is Friday all day. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I can say that. Public Opinion. The Court of Public Opinion. I'm a recovery addict. Thank you very much for joining me here this afternoon. We have a lot of things happening. And if I can make everything look a little better, that would be better. There we go. First of all, it's never happened before. Never in the history of Recovery Addict as a TV YouTube channel have we had someone win the internet 4 times in a row. So don't change your channel. Don't change. I think you're watching an old stream, but Myra has won once again. This is 4 times in a row. Which is just awesome. Congratulations, Myra. You are the winner yet again. The victor, the victim, all bundled into one. And for some reason, I cannot see anything other than like 5 chats. Oh, there they are. They just popped in. All right. Congratulations. Myra says, happy to serve. You've done a great job. I have no complaints. I don't have any complaints. Adam and Jimbo may have complaints, but all in good fun. Thank you, Myra, for being here, for breaking the ice, letting everybody know the water's fine. Come on in. Chat is a safe place to be, to hang out with your friends and just enjoy this. So love that. Thank you very much, Myra. You're going to do a great job. You probably, I don't think we're going to regift the internet on the podcast tonight with Weather Watch at 9 p.m. this channel, just in case you forgot. So that means you're basically, Myra, on for, unless we do a police chase, which I admit there has been a police chase that I might want to show you. Unless we do a police chase on Saturday, you'll probably have the internet all weekend long. And it's a long weekend, which means the rest of us get a vacation, Myra, but you'll have to work the whole thing all the way through Monday. So I apologize for not telling you ahead of time that that's what you were signing up for, but I think you'll be able to do it. We got a complete roll call this morning, so I'm just going to look through and see if there's anybody that I missed the first time around. Cass, I see you there. Douglas, welcome. Let's see, who did I miss the first time? Mac, got you. That wasn't a song. I was just humming random notes. Victoria S. Bay One Gaming. Jimbo. Myra again? It's Myra still, Jimbo. Myra still. 4 times in a row. Consecutive. Back to back to back. Is that enough? 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to back to back to back. Let's see. I think we've got just about everybody. I apologize for being just a bit late. The judge is going to show up at any moment. We've got the audio running right now, so we can see in the courtroom exactly what's going on. Let's see. I think Adam has won 4 times, maybe, but not back to back. This is the first time it's happened that way. Okay, scrolling down. Bite Me's here. I see that. Welcome, Bite Me. I tried yesterday and today, but it's too hard. Myra is the best. I give up. I might change things up. I like to have the placeholder open. There have been times when I didn't create a placeholder and I just went live. And that is always surprising. I imagine all of you are out there hitting the F5 button, refreshing your screen over and over. CG in Texas just gifted a membership. So hopefully you've got that membership setting turned on to accept gifts from this channel, because let's see, all the way down here, True Celtic Mutt was gifted a membership. Mutt, awesome. This is the last chat we'll see from him for a month in gray. So good to have you in green there. Love it. Hey from Virginia Beach and the Gavel Hounds. Hello to all you over there on Mutt's channel. Appreciate you joining us through him. Let's see. Alex stole my lunch. Sunshine Sunflowers. I was missed because I was late this morning. Did I call out JB this morning? Always on go. Who was missed because I was late? Oh, Sunshine Sunflowers. I was missed because I was late this morning. Well, you're gonna have to go ahead and put exclamation point late in chat then to be marked present. Christy, I see you. Gordon as well. Casey Jones. Ignore Me is here this time around. I think you were here last time as well. Gordon, subtle plug there. Just a subtle plug. Did you see how I just slid it in effortlessly as if it was just a regular part of the conversation? Grumpy Cat, did you release the cricket? Yes, I have on my channel, my first ever in a long time, YouTube short, where I released the cricket into the great outdoors of my backyard, and it promptly hopped towards my house again. So I'm hoping it didn't come back in, but yes, you can see my toes briefly in the picture. They look like hobbit feet. That's how you know it's me. It's 5 times total, says Meyer. Yes, you have the earlier win, which we try not to talk about really. It's like we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Myra's first time she owned the internet because it didn't go well for anybody in my neighborhood. It was very bad. Good afternoon, Marcy C. and adopted family. Good to have you all. Lady Writer, Lynn, I see you there. March 13. Let's see. I think I've got most of you. Be you me. Hello. Okay, so we had a fantastic timeline. This is what we've been waiting for. We had the timeline. Nicole as well. Thank you so much for the information, and thanks for straightening me out on the on that software, and how if he had deleted it, it would have shown up. I think what I understand, Nicole, if I finally listened to what you were telling me all along, is that any call made through the computer through the when it's linked to his in-dash entertainment center, infotainment center, probably wouldn't show up on the call log there. It would show up on the call log in the infotainment center or something. And so it wouldn't be on the phone, but if he had deleted it off the phone, it would show as like it has a term carved or something. So that makes sense now. I'll stop spreading misinformation on that front. Let's see. Myra says Rowdy says to Myra, I had glitching through lunch. Myra, don't let it happen. Let's see. Jimbo says, still haven't gotten a membership. May have to purchase soon. Missed most of this morning's court session, and it was really good. If you like timelines, this is data heavy. Some of us love it, and some of us were like, wake me up when it's over type thing, Sorry if I just triggered a yawn for all of you. But I liked it. I know Vixen, Amber liked it. A few of us really loved it. I think the state did a good job of putting everything together really clearly and not confusing us with other facts that are irrelevant. So I think once the state rests, we're going to do a quick poll and see what people think. Marcy just gifted a membership, and Jojo Peter, congratulations, you're the recipient. Thank you very much, Marcy, for the generous donation. Recover at X's hashtag fake news. Oh, harsh, Nicole. It hurts. Just reminder to change your title to part 2. Let's see, edit. It says part 1. Look at that. Part 2. Thank you for that, Grumpy Cat. It's been saved. It's been corrected. I appreciate that. I was in such a haste getting ready for Myra to win the internet again that I forgot to make the one change I had to make. Did Ari listen to what the judge said about the jury again? I was trying to listen to that. I've actually got. It wasn't first thing, right? It was when the jury had been sent out and then they brought back. So I don't know what the timestamp was. I was going back to listen to the first part of court, and it wasn't during that early part. So I'm not sure where it is. If somebody can send me the link, I'd like to play it again because I think it's right at the very end of when he's reading that note. Let's see. I wish I could just scroll through it. Can you gift from an iPhone? I don't think so. Okay. iPhone doesn't play the game very well. How's the case going? It says Charaskadam. Charaskadam. That is an awesome name. The case is going well. It really is. For the prosecution today, it has not been going well for them previous days. But today, I think they did a good job. We'll see how well this evidence or this witness holds up on cross. Rakita is 80% plus not guilty. Law and Crime Network is 80% guilty. What kind of law does Rakita? What does Nick practice? It's Nick, right? I'm curious if he's a criminal defense or personal injury. Adam Nusky, are you 89? I'm 88. Why do I feel like I know less now than before the trial started? Gloria, there's just so much information. Did Mrs. R.A. buy you pickles in the shopping? Sharon. She did not. She did not. But she bought everything else. I cannot fault her. I wish you could see. I probably could show you, but I'm probably not going to. She buys shopping. She goes, there's like a big week shopping and a small week shopping. This was a big week shopping, and she buys all the stuff she needs to make all the meals for 2 weeks. And so, like, it's got like 15 pounds of cheese. And because there's like a million of us, right? We've got 6 kids, and several of them eat like horses. But yeah, it was a lot of food, but there were no pickles there. Crystal Robinson says, "Hey, I've been at work all day today. Has anything happened today?" Yes, Crystal. It was a big one to miss, unfortunately. If you like data, the timeline came out today. We've got the timeline all put together. The only thing they haven't done is basically what they're going to say in closing, which is fill in those gaps and explain the parts that they can't get a witness to really say. They can give the data, and they're going to interpret that in the closing, and that's when we're going to get that. I can pickles for the whole year. Any number of pickles I have is just a day's worth, my wrench. That's all it is. Hope your lunch was delicious. Same for everyone else. Yes, Mrs. Ari went and got a chicken salad sandwich on like a, what's it called? The little, like a croissant. So it's a croissant with chicken salad inside. It was really good. What's with the pickle obsession? Dean Wall, with that one question, I know 2 things. One, I know that you have not gone out to Walmart and purchased your own package, bottle of spicy maple bourbon pickles. And I also know that you have a life-changing event ahead of you if you do. That's what the pickle obsession is about. I love those pickles. I like pickles on sandwich, and I discovered those pickles while I was live streaming, and it sort of became a thing. And also that's also why we have the little phrase "pickles, not politics." We don't dive heavy into political issues here. We like. Oh, I just lowered the chair on accident. I was trying to raise the armrest. That was a surprise. We like. I'm not against having political discussions. I think they're very important to have, but I just think that YouTube in chat specifically is probably the least effective format for that conversation. So we don't go heavy into the politics. We do pickles, not politics. But that's it. Tried the pickles, not a fan. Marissa, you're breaking up. I can't hear you there. What's that? One of the few, Marissa. I do apologize. I recommend them because I honestly believe that they're the best ever. And also, I hope that Walmart will sponsor me one day and send me free pickles. Cheese is a food group, a very important food group. So, Crystal, today we've had the timeline. It's been a big thing. The state's basically taken all the bits of evidence they've had from all the different witnesses and put it together in order, which is something we haven't had the whole trial long. So that's really good. How can you do a big shopping week and not buy pickles? Adam, I had this conversation not 15 minutes ago, about 25 minutes ago. Nobody talks bad about cheese. Wisconsin in the house, and we defend it proudly, says Ivan. Yes, we have, I think we did some cheddar, mozzarella, pepper jack, and there might be some provolone in there in this week's shopping. Dean is Gabble Hounds. That's awesome, Dean. Welcome, Dean. Pickles are a thing here. That's all. Pickles are seriously good. I usually don't even like sweeter pickles, but they won me over. That's awesome, Brittany. Good to hear. Let's see. What about cheesy? No, man. Ignore me. I'm going to start ignoring you. Thanks for the update. I'll go back and watch when I get off today. Sounds great, Crystal. It's going to be fun this afternoon, so I wouldn't miss this afternoon's live stream. Or wherever you watch the trial, I wouldn't miss that because the cross is going to be fantastic. I believe it's going to be Jim from I don't know for sure, but I think it's going to be Jim because Jim is the number 2. Harpootlian already did cross this morning, so I don't think he's going to do 2 witnesses in a row. So Jim's going to do the cross, and Alex has been sort of referring to Jim every time something comes up during this witness's testimony that he has issue with or wants to clarify. So I think he's explaining things to bring up that Jim can bring up in his argument. So I think it will be Jim, which could be good because he's the best cross that I've seen. What's up? All right, boy. Good to have you here, 7. Did the state rest today? Not yet, but I think they will after this cross. Smoked Gouda is also good. Love those cheeses. Mrs. R.A. and I used to have for a date night. I think I've told you this before. I apologize if I have. For like our date night, we'd go out shopping. When money was tight, we'd go out shopping, and all we would do is basically we'd go buy the regular groceries, but it was just time to hang out together in the grocery store together, and to splurge, we would go to the cheese section because there was a cheese section, and we'd find a little slice of some cheese that we'd never tried before, and we'd just experiment with different cheeses. And I do like most cheeses, but there's one that's it's a harder cheese that has it's like flavor crystals. I wish I could remember what it is, but it was just delicious. You can't avoid politics in this case, but you can't avoid political philosophy because it's all about Southern patriarchal society. Yeah, there is some of that. We do try to keep everything civil in here, though. Occasionally, if there's somebody that just rubs you the wrong way, you might have to just block them and say, hey, I'm here for the greater good. We just, if there's a non-productive argument going back and forth, we ask that you move on. But other than that, we do like various opinions here presented. It helps everybody. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Nicole today, and I was arguing against her on something. So I appreciate the people who bring various perspectives to chat. Too bad Alex Murdaugh was at the murder scene right before murders. Please note, both Maggie and Paul were having active conversations right before both phones went silent for good. It's hard to miss that, double agent. It's circumstantial. It doesn't mean that Alex did it, but it sure looks that way. Asiago cheese. There's another one. Good. That's a good one, Max. I'm not really here. My true crime community. What's up? Good to have you here, even though you're not really here. I imagine that you're actually at work watching on a monitor that's like hidden behind a piece of paper or something. That's what I see when I see your name. They have me sold on guilty now that we've seen the Maggie's phone and Alex Murdaugh's Suburban left at 9:07. Why does the boat keep coming up? All right, Brenda, that's a good question. The boat was a crash that Paul was responsible for, or arguably has been. It was said that he was responsible for. He was intoxicated at the time of the crash. One of the occupants of the boat, a girl, passed away. I think it was Mallory Beach was her name. So it was a fatal crash, and the community as a whole was pretty upset with the Murdaughs because of it. And there were some things that there was a lot of pushback. There was a court case, there was a civil case, and the civil suit probably is more important here. The court case, the criminal case against Paul, dropped as soon as he died. There's going to be you can't convict a dead guy, right? That just doesn't happen. You can't do that. How would you defend yourself, right? So as soon as he died, that ended the criminal suit. The criminal suit going away doesn't eliminate the civil suit. A new station alert has arrived. It says it's going to rain. Not sure why I needed an alert for that, but it doesn't eliminate the civil suit, but it does help a little bit because the criminal conviction would hurt. It would actually give more weight to the civil suit. Let's see. Love goat cheese with cranberries from Aldi. Goat cheese with cranberries. Sounds good. Okay. I think we're mostly caught up here. I might have just skipped a whole page full of questions. Manchego Manchego cheese, spelling is wrong. Probably aged Gouda. It's intense. I don't think it was aged Gouda. It was, I think it was harder than that. I'll have to find it again. I don't think Recovery Addict realized it'll be 14 days before we get pickles again. Murray, I'm going to have to make an exception to the shop every 2 weeks rule. And I'll have to, break out the piggy bank and see if I can find enough coins. Maybe I'll go metal detecting and see if I can find enough money to buy a jar of pickles. That would be a fun little video to make. Pretty sure Poot slept through most of this witness, so probably best to be Jim. I've been disappointed with Harpootlian's crosses. He bluffs big. He talks big. He says, this cross is going to take, 2 hours. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be I'm excited for this one. And then he doesn't deliver. It's like a flop at the end. And I think that's pickle jar money. I think that's what that is. Thank you for the generous super chat. Sadeed, thank you so much. That's funny. And Putin just, I call him Putin. 3 times today I've called him Putin. And Vladimir is over there, about ready to throw a gavel at me or something. But Harpootlian just hasn't really, he's had the passion. We saw that this morning, but he's been misguided. He's fallen into some traps where the objection was so apparent to the judge that he didn't even bother explaining the grounds. It was just sustained. It was like, you're clearly off base. And then he came across as like, why would this not be okay? It made him look inept as a lawyer. It made him look like he didn't know what he was doing a little bit, where I think he could have done a lot better had he not just tried to rely on passion and volume and force and presence type thing to get his point across. I think he could have done a lot better and possibly had a longer and more effective cross of the witness. But when making lasagna, instead of using shredded cheese, use a variety of different types of cheeses, like a 4-cheese lasagna. I'm up for that. Gloria says, I'm worried. I love your channel because it's not too big and very interesting. People chime in at a rate we can absorb. What happens when you grow too big for that? Because it's going to happen. Well, Gloria, I don't know how we're going to handle that. I think the best way is I might have to slow down chat. That way everyone gets to speak again, and it's not going to be flooded. It'll make it harder to share a longer thought, like a part 1, part 2 deal. But I want what we have here to stay. And so that's actually a very strong desire of what I have. It's also down the road. It's not right now. Right now I can follow. Other than roll call, where you guys talk so fast, I'm pretty good at being able to follow. So it is good. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I do want to keep it. First of all, you never will have to be a member or a subscriber to ask a question. If there's an interesting question, I'm gonna answer it. I think that some of the best input comes from people who just happen to hop in and have been somewhere else and are thinking about something and just present that. So that's always going to be here. I want to keep that as part of the channel. Let's see. We need robot copies of Recovery Addict for when he gets more followers. I could just clone.
Bring the jury, please.
The bailiff just yelled over the judge, and it scared the judge. That was funny. Yeah, ChatGPT is going to be the new Recovery Addict 2. We'll just clone me. Missed the important part of the lasagna. Use sliced cheese instead of shredded. I like that. Game on. Here we go. Judge with his cup. Bring the jury. We're ready to start for part 2. Holograms. We'll figure out something. We might have to do more often, stream more often, and not as long. I don't know. And reimburse his favorite juror for his lunch. You don't have to be a subscriber to have your question ignored. Adam, Adam, oh man. I will say tagging me. If you use a tag like Ivan did right here, using the @ symbol and start typing my name and then click my name so it puts it in orange, that is the easiest way for me to respond to anything from the peanut gallery or anywhere else.
Cross-examination, Mr. Barber.
Thanks, Mags.
Please, the court.
Okay, here we go. I have to boost the volume just a little bit. Not Jim. It's Mr. Barber.
Good afternoon, Agent Rudolpski. Did I say that right?
Yep. Sounds good to me.
Let's start first with the
sniffing
GM
begin.
data that recently came in. I think that may have made things a little more clear, right? We don't really need to look at a lot of those cell phone tower plots now that we have the exact position of the car, do we?
Hey, Wendy.
I agree, yeah. The GM data is pretty clear.
Don't really. At first, you did an analysis of driving to and from the office in Hampton in the middle of the day. Not too interested in that, but let's skip to the drive from Moselle to Alameda.
Okay.
How long was that drive? How long did it take him from start to
So
finish?
I'd have to look back the drive. So you're referring to the 9:06 time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but this is a SLED agent. It's not a lawyer. Let's see how he handles this.
9:07.
Now I'm smarter, DMB. You've taught me something about cheese, and I can't pronounce all those words. But
It's at 9:22,
I get
so
the
about
gist.
15 minutes.
Okay, and do you need, is it more like 16 minutes? Do you
16
need a
minutes,
pen and
yeah.
paper, 16 minutes?
do you need a calculator to add up to 16?
Okay, and coming back, how long was it?
I'm going to crank it up just a little bit.
9:43. About 18 minutes,
18 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
approximately.
So the top speed and the way back we saw was a little faster, but it actually took a little longer to make the return trip. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
And you're referring to the same drive to Alameda and back? Okay.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Are you aware that Senior Special Agent David Owen did a test drive from Alameda to Moselle on January 3rd of this year?
That's correct. I was in the passenger seat of that.
And how long did that take?
I would have to see the data. I don't remember.
You don't have that? You don't know if it was 17 minutes and 35 seconds?
If I was presented with something, it could be, but I do not have that number in front of me.
If it were that, it would be right in between those two times that we just saw for Mr. Murdaugh going back and forth, would it not?
It could, but there was different variables at the time.
It was during the day, wasn't it?
It was. It was.
So on this way back, there's that little 80-mile-an-hour spurt. How long did that go on?
I am unsure of that. It's just the data point is plotted. It doesn't give a. It just gives you a timestamp. It doesn't say for how long.
In your experience, I think you talked earlier that you would respond to calls in a marked car with blue lights.
Not a marked car, but a marked car with blue lights. Yep.
Is it extremely unusual for someone who's on a straightaway in a rural road at night to give it some gas on a little burst?
A little bit of gas, but when it's 55 and you have deer and other environmental factors that play in.
Yes, but it's not that unusual, is it, for someone to give it a little gas on a straightaway in a rural road?
It depends on what a little gas is.
But the overall speed that he went to get from where he was going, coming from to where he's going to, as far as you know, is in line with the test drive that you were in the passenger seat for?
If that is correct, what you mentioned, yes.
That's So like right in between those two, actually.
Like I said, I don't have that test drive data in front of me, but
Well, let's move on then to when he drove past that point where Maggie's cell phone was later recovered. And I think that may start on slide 23.
23?
Actually, if you go back one slide. Right. So we're in slide 22, sorry.
22? Okay,
So he's going 37.2 miles an hour here.
that's correct.
And next slide. Now he's still approaching it at 42, so he's accelerating gently. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Next slide. Looks like he is just past it, going slightly faster than he was on the previous slide. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Next slide. He's continuing to, now he's a good bit down the road there at 45, but is it fair to say he's continuing a fairly gentle acceleration?
I would say so, yes.
So what we saw as he passed it, he did not slow down and speed up as he went past that point. He continued his same gentle acceleration.
Per the data, yes.
And we won't go through it, but if we went down later to when it goes down to the bottom of the screen, it would show that he slowed down slightly corresponding when he sent that text, go to see him, be right back. Is that accurate?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. We'll be done with that. I'm going to now just skip with this data all the way to when he approaches the kennel coming from the house right before he calls 911.
Okay.
We're skipping Almeida completely. It matches if
The
you...
direction he is driving as he comes right up,
Let
right
me wait
before
for
he
there's a
parks,
pause and I'll answer that.
would he have his, would he be illuminating the bodies of Maggie and Paul?
Per the aerial that I'm looking, I don't know if you want to put it on the screen so we can show, but per the aerial, it would be coming around that curve and it would illuminate at least Maggie's body.
Would the illumination, is it going back towards that space between the barn and the kennels where Paul's body was out?
Like I said, this is just a data plot.
But you could determine that, could you not, from just the last 2 points, because that would show you the direction that the vehicle is pointed.
It doesn't say the vehicle's pointed that direction, it just says that's
But
where
if
the
it moved
vehicle's
from
at.
point A to point B, being a car, it would have to be in
Yeah,
that
but where
direction.
where it final rests, I don't know which direction it's
But as
pointing.
it's moving,
As it's moving, yes, you would think it would go
right,
that
so,
direction.
so the headlights certainly on Maggie, it would appear from the plot maybe on Paul as well. And does he park near Maggie's body?
I do not know where he parked the first time, because all we have is when the deputies arrived the second time. So
On your plot,
on the plot here,
when he comes the first time before
Mm-hmm.
the 911 call, where does his vehicle stop in relation to Maggie's body?
it stops before it.
How close is it?
I do not have a
Descriptive, is it very close? Is it pretty much right there?
I wouldn't say it's right on top of it, but it's
Very
in
close.
the area.
So as he's pulling up to the scene, he can certainly see one, if not both bodies on the ground, and he stops right next to Maggie. Is that fair?
I'm just looking at the data provided. I was not there on scene. I
Well,
don't
the
know
data
what he- I
provided
don't
is
know
the
what he
location of
saw.
the car and the location of the body.
I don't know
correct?
what he would have saw or what the car would have saw at that time.
You don't know what would be directly in front of his car as it was moving from point to point to point?
I was not there, and the data I have.
I'm asking from the data.
The
Obviously
data
you
does
weren't
not
there.
say,
Allowed to finish his answer?
You must give the witness an opportunity to respond fully. You may proceed.
there is no data that says that the headlights were pointing in a specific direction or at a specific object, so I cannot answer that.
When you say there's no data saying the headlights are pointing in a specific direction, were they not pointed along the line that would connect the last 2 data points before the car stops and goes in the park?
For the drive, but it does not show, I mean, it could be at an angle. It's such it's a little dot, but does not show a vehicle in its exact position of it, so I cannot answer that.
Right, and we're not talking about the dot, we're talking about a line connecting 2 dots.
Okay, but
and
you were
a car
asking about
moving
the
along
dot.
that line, the headlines would be pointed down the line, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Objections overruled.
Ask your question again.
We're talking not about a point, but about a line, and a car moving down a line. As it moves down that line between 2 points, would its headlights not be pointed in the same direction down that line?
I would assume.
So he arrives at the scene, gets out, presumably he goes in the park, and then 20 seconds later, first dials 911. Is that your testimony?
Yep.
So pulling up on the scene, body's in his headlight, presumably knows something's horribly wrong, gets out 20 seconds to the first call to 911. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Which was actually misdialed 9111, and he had to redial it a second time, which was at 18 seconds, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So he had 20 seconds, and I think there's maybe an implication, or that's not enough time.
Objection is sustained to the comment of counsel.
The cross has just started.
Is this timer set for 20 seconds?
It is.
Okay. When I say so, would you please press the start button?
Okay.
Now.
This is bizarre. Look at his face. He's tapping his foot.
That was 20 seconds, would you agree?
Per your phone, yes.
You don't dispute the phone
I do not.
accuracy, do you? If the person getting out of the car had seen the bodies already and already knew something was horribly wrong, do you believe that that is an unreasonably short period of time to inspect and call 911?
I'm here to testify on this data, not the hypothetical. I think you're asking the wrong person on that.
Fair enough. We'll move on.
Good job. Witness.
Okay, I'm going to turn to your condensed timeline,
Okay.
which I think is State's Exhibit 519. I'm going to ask you to turn to page 21.
Okay.
And towards the bottom, 9:06 and 20 seconds, it says Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone sideways orientation,
That is correct.
and meaning that her phone at that time went to a sideways orientation?
So between 9:06:12 and 9:06:20, from the phone experts, that it started at 9:06:12 and it ended at 9:06:20.
Okay.
Those
but
two orientations.
I'll ask it this way.
Okay.
A second later, what would be the orientation of her phone?
From a second from what? The 20?
After that, yes, at 9:06:21.
I do not know.
Well, then what does this entry mean? If it doesn't mean that it,
There's nothing that says 9:06:21 on here.
right, so what happened at 9:06 and 20 seconds?
It finished its orientation change to sideways.
What does that mean?
So it went from a portrait. So let me get the phone. So it went from portrait
He's got his phone in court.
to sideways.
What's his screen
And
say?
until,
In those, between the, you
Go
know,
ahead, sorry.
between 9:06:12 and 9:06:20, is that is what it's showing. That's why we have the little purple on the right-hand side to show that it's connected. It's all one big sequence, per our phone experts that had previously testified.
so it would remain in portrait until remain in the landscape orientation until the next change?
I am unsure of that. I'm not a phone expert, so I am unsure of that. I was given this data, and this is how it was relayed to me, and this is how I have put it in this timeline.
Okay. So if you were to go to page 19, please.
Okay.
And the very last entry there, Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone vertical orientation. What does that mean?
So this was all given to me from different, data sources. So how I read this is that the phone has turned to a vertical orientation. So I guess.
Has turned to a vertical orientation. And
Because we have a sideways orientation, and then we have a vertical orientation.
Okay. Just keep scanning down until you get to the next orientation change for Maggie Murdaugh's phone, please.
From page 19?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're just looking for the next orientation change.
I believe it's going to be that 90612.
And what does that say?
Implements an orientation change to portrait.
But the previous change was to portrait, was it not?
It says vertical orientation.
So there's no intervening orientation change. It just goes to portrait and then changes to portrait again?
As I read the data, yes, that's correct. Like I said, I'm not a phone expert. I was given these different pieces to plot, and this is how they've been plotted.
When you're given these pieces to plot, do you ever notice if things don't seem to make sense or don't match with other data? Do you alert anyone?
So we have phone experts that review that. So they have reviewed the data, and I do not know if that's something that they came across.
I believe the
And
explanation
you
they
can't
should
tell me
use
with that last, or can you tell me this? The last orientation change here on page 21, is that the last change on her phone until the extraction at the SLED lab?
I would have to go through and double check. Would you like me to do that?
You may.
Okay.
Okay, I think just from using my phone, changing orientation on the phone, it does take some time, and if you're switching back and forth between the two, it may start in portrait, start going to landscape, and
You said
go back
orientation
to
change,
portrait,
correct?
Yes, sir.
and have two portrait modes back to back. I think that's what they're basically saying happened. But unless they're spaced out time-wise, that doesn't make sense to me. Like two portraits back to back. I lock my portrait at night and unlock it during the day, because if I'm using my phone when I'm about ready to go to bed, I like lay on the side and look at it.
Per this condensed
I hate the
timeline, you are
flips.
correct. That'd be the last orientation change that I see noted.
I mean, that's the last one until the phone was downloaded?
I believe so.
It shows State's Exhibit.
We've already
That
had
would-
testimony
now
that
the
there
thing
are
is, this
deer
is just
all
a
over there,
timeline.
so maybe
So
a
it
deer
could be
access.
in what's already in evidence from Lieutenant Britt Dove, but in this timeline, that is the only one showing.
Okay.
And for orientation changes, we were really only concerned for the day of,
Right.
for this timeline.
Show what's been previously admitted as Defense Exhibit 38. And go to the last page. This was previously admitted in evidence during the examination of Lieutenant Dove. It's a complete list of every orientation change recorded on her phone as of the extract. Is the last one listed, the very last one, the 906 orientation change?
The 906.22 on the bottom?
Yes, sir.
That's correct. The 906, yep, at the far bottom column.
Yes. Can we show State's Exhibit 278? This was also admitted in that examination. This is a photo taken in the SLED lab before the extract, actually 5 days before the extract. This phone is in portrait mode, is it not?
The way I read it, yes, that is portrait mode.
So that very last orientation change we saw was to portrait mode, because there are no subsequent orientation changes.
I assume so, yes.
And not landscape as it says on this.
The thing is, before this picture was taken, you have to remind yourself that, SLED got the phone, and
The
then
phone doesn't show recent calls.
this
in
photo was
landscape mode,
taken
does
at a
it?
lab,
Yes.
so I don't know. I don't know what happened. People, it's been moving around, manipulated. I don't.
But we just looked at a complete list of all the orientation changes, did we not? It wasn't time limited to a particular day. It's everything on the phone.
Like I said, I did not produce that document, so I'm going to have to go on your word on that.
Let me ask this before we kind of move on from this. Okay. It's been stated a few times in testimony, and I think you did as well, that you don't get an orientation change recorded when the screen is off. Is that correct?
That is my understanding from previous testimony.
Okay. So my screen is off. If I turn it, like to get an orientation change, and it's off, if I just stand here for a while, however long, an hour, and without moving the phone, turn the screen on, will there be an orientation change?
That is a technical question for an expert that we had up here yesterday. That I am not an expert, and I am not a phone expert. So
where I'm going with that is simply, you don't know yourself in preparing this timeline whether the orientation changes that you're putting on here correspond with movement of the phone at that moment.
I do not. I'm going off of data I was given from phone experts that gave me the data and has been put on this timeline.
I'm going to turn now to the timeline and really focus on the timeline for Maggie Murdaugh. And I'm going to skip, kind of close to the time that we're...
Are you still on the condensed or the full?
I'm going to be on the condensed the entire time. I'm not going to refer to the other one. Okay. And I want to start on page 17 with that group text that Maggie Murdaugh read that came in at 8:31, but she read it at 8:49:26.
Okay.
And I guess the actual reading of that would be on page 19 for your reference. We'll start there.
On page 19?
I'm not a
Yes.
phone expert.
Okay.
Just kidding. I don't know. I'm
You
still
have
trying to
some
understand
screen
this.
off on times here, but you didn't put every time the screen went on and off, did you?
I do not recall. I'd have to look at what was given.
So you don't know if the screen of her screen went off at 8:49:28, came back on.
Everything should be on this document.
Okay. Did her screen go off at 8:49:28 and come back on at 8:53:08?
I have a screen on at 8:49:20.
And when did it go off?
This guy just made the graph.
I do not see it on here.
Well, let me ask it this way. Do you know that whether the screen went off at 8:49:28 and came back on at 8:53:08?
8:53. I do not unless I have it on here.
Okay. And then she has steps that begin at 8:53:15. Is that correct?
For this document, yes.
When you were looking at the step data, did you look at the corresponding distance data that goes to the step data?
I was just provided the timestamp and then the steps.
Are you aware that the phone in the same database keeps distance data with the step data?
I have been made aware of that.
But you have not looked at any of that distance data?
I was told that it's not accurate, it's not reliable, the distance, so I did not focus in on that.
So,
The defense has done this a lot through the trial. They've been asking people who are related to the data but not necessarily the expert about it.
Possibly, well, just as an investigator, on your spreadsheet, I won't bother to put it up, but you had a bunch of time periods where Alec had steps, different times. Do you think there would be any relevance to whether the number of feet per step and all those different increments was extremely consistent?
Is there any relevance to it?
Would it maybe suggest the same person was walking?
Yeah, they're going to object because he was about to answer that
Objections
one.
overruled.
I would have to, I didn't do the feet per step, so I'd have to see the data.
I understand that, and the
Yeah.
question is, would there be any relevance to an investigation to seeing that the feet per step were extremely consistent for disparate time periods? the same phone.
I said this was just a tool that we used. It could be. It just was not explored.
And if this time period, 8:53 with Maggie Murdaugh's steps to 8:55:32, if the distance covered in that time were short, meaning she was moving particularly slowly, could that have any relevance?
It depends, but that distance is, we're told, is highly inaccurate, and everything is an estimate. So even the steps, that's we're told by the phone expert that's an estimate. That's not an exact number. The same, I would assume, for the distance.
So you don't think, you did not check to see if the speed at which Maggie Murdaugh was moving on that very last increment, the last time the phone says she was ever walking, there was no, how fast is she going, is she running, is she creeping?
That's an objection.
No one looked at that.
Objection, facts not in evidence.
Objection's overruled.
I did not look at that, no. I cannot say for anyone else.
And the same question for Alex Murdaugh, did anyone look for, I think you have, over 8 of these increments listed out, whether he was going particularly fast, unusually fast for him, unusually slow for him, the same speed he always goes. Did anyone look at that?
All we have here is the data that is on that sheet.
And you do have these steps per minute, but do you have any data suggesting that within, and I'll pick one just to make the question simpler, Alex Murdaugh's first, well, I'll pick an even easier one, entry number 30.
Okay.
Which is when he's at Alameda and then part of when he's leaving Alameda, is that correct?
That is correct, based by the time.
And it says 60 steps over almost just a little short of 10 minutes?
I believe so, yep.
So of course it's slightly more than 6 steps per minute, which would be a step every 10 seconds. So this time period is not saying that he's going that many steps per minute, right? It's saying he walked and then he didn't walk and he walked. Is that fair?
It's just giving us an analysis, a general overview of, our estimated steps that it gives us, and then estimated steps per minute. That's all it is. It's just a general.
Well, I'll just ask open-ended. Why is this last column steps per minute here? Why are you presenting this?
It's just another way to present the data.
So turning back to, I think we were on page 19.
Okay.
Maggie Murdaugh's phone is walking. Now we had from previous testimony an activation of the Siri user interface with the side button. Did you recall that from previous testimony?
I do not, but it could have been.
Okay, you don't recall previous testimony about that. Can we bring up Defense Exhibit 41? And there's a begin and end. It's all the same time there in the bottom couple rows. You can see 8:53:20. I don't know if this refreshes or if you recall, or if perhaps you know from experience that the Siri interface can be activated by squeezing and holding the right button on the phone. Do you know that?
I believe so, if you have it, activated to do that.
So the phone's walking, it's in somebody's hand. Now, this is something that's not on your timeline, but again was certainly discussed with Lieutenant Dove. 8:54:32, the screen comes on, and a couple seconds later, there's a camera access. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay, and that's not on your timeline?
It is not.
Okay. Now that came up in testimony with both experts, and I believe, do you recall Lieutenant Dove said that it was possible to find out what caused that, but he had not himself looked to see.
That's correct.
And I believe investigator Grubb said he did not know why. Is that correct?
I believe so.
But it's knowable, according to the previous testimony?
That's correct.
But no one's checked to see?
To my knowledge, no.
And then after that, there's some orientation changes, and then finally the screen goes off, I believe, for an more extended period of time at 8:55:36. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, after this period, there's nothing else that happens with her phone other than missed calls and texts, except that final orientation change. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Now, does that fact that we aren't seeing anything after 8:55:36, does that mean that she was dead at 8:55:36?
Like I said, this is just data that I plotted.
So the answer is no?
I don't
It
know
does
that
not
answer.
mean that?
I have to go by the data here, and there's no activity.
Right.
You can take that however you want, but there's no activity.
I mean, is it fair, and this isn't trying to be tricky, if use of the phone ceases as time goes on, it's more and more likely there's something amiss, right? The first second no
assume
one's
so,
using
yeah.
the phone is normal. I mean, someone might easily go, even Paul might go 5 minutes without using his phone, but as you keep going on, it gets a little more likely something's wrong, right? Is that fair?
I would say so.
Okay.
But
So
you have it
it's not an immediate thing that, well, the last,
Request witness be able to finish the answer he started.
I apologize, Your Honor, I honestly thought he had finished.
I'm good. Go ahead.
So it wouldn't be fair to say
threw
that
him
if
a
the last
lifeline and he didn't
usage
take
was
it.
at some particular second that the person was dead that second, right? It would create an inference that would increase in strength over time that no one's using the phone, something's wrong, right?
I can't answer that. I mean, I don't have the knowledge on that.
Do you recall in previous testimony that Special Agent Owen said with regard to Almeida and I think a blue raincoat, that it would take, in his estimation, 5 to 10 minutes to dispose of evidence already wrapped up? From this, do you recall that?
I do recall.
Okay. So to be consistent with the data you have here, well, let me ask this: how long with the test drives was to drive from the kennels to the main house?
I know we did various ones. I'd have to look at the data. We did at various speeds. It was very
Minute,
short.
15 seconds?
That would be a lot, I would say.
Okay. So, and we know that Alex's phone is at the house, right, from 8, it got left at the house. It's not going anywhere since it was up the house with the family.
I just show no activity on it.
Right.
You can assume it is at the house.
But it started showing activity again at 9:02 and 18 seconds? That's when the steps start?
That is correct. 283 steps.
So from that 8:55:36 to 9:02 with a minute and some seconds to get up to the house, it would have like 5 minutes if it were him to do everything and get back to the house in his house to the phone. 5 minutes.
I think you're missing that the phone was actually locked at 8:49 for Maggie's phone. So the 8:55:36 is just when the backlight is off, but her phone locks forever at 8:49.
But it's moving around, right, at 8:53. You didn't look at the speed at which it's moving, but that could tell us something. There's a Siri activation. I'm just asking my question, Your Honor.
What's the question?
Her phone is moving around starting at 8:53, comma, there's a Siri activation near the start of that time, comma, and then there's a camera activation during this time, and some orientation changes, and then it goes off. Is that all correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you don't know how fast the phone was moving during that period, but that is known, just no one has looked. Is that correct?
So everything is estimation with the phone. It does not track your exact, speed or distance or steps. It's all estimated. So an exact number is unknown.
And you have, I assume from your testimony, you don't know why someone would take Maggie's phone but not Paul's phone?
I would not know. I mean, I'm not there.
I mean,
I would not
given
know.
your job as a SLED agent, I mean, would the fact that the camera was, the phone was in someone's hand and
Here
it
comes
was
an
attempted to
objection
take a
from
picture,
Creighton.
would that be an inference you could draw? as
He
to
never
why
said
that
it
phone was
attempted to
taken?
take a picture, from what I heard, but you'd have to ask a technical expert on exactly
Or
what
the
that
defendant.
camera function was for.
Well, you see, the thing is that the technical experts, they're not going to say either, are they? It's some investigator is going to have to make some inferences from the data, and the question is it a fair inference that if the camera's in somebody's hand and they're trying to take a picture, that might be why the killers take that phone and not the phone that's in somebody's pocket?
So the way
Your Honor.
What's the basis for the objection?
Argumentative.
What's the response to, by the defense? Any response?
Your Honor, I'm asking the investigator whether...
What you're asking is the response to the objection. The objection is argumentative.
Your Honor, I do not believe it's argumentative. I'm asking if an inference would be fair.
I overrule the objection.
So the inference I'm looking at it is that the camera was trying to identify a face to unlock, which it did not. So that is the inference that I would look at that instead of taking a photo from a layperson perspective.
Right, except that's not an inference an investigator would make, correct? A technical expert would go and see what triggered the camera activation and tell that to an investigator, correct?
I was not, but I am not the technical person.
And I think we covered in some previous questioning that the testimony has been that that's knowable, but no one has checked. I'll kind of switch over to Paul.
Okay.
And just to sort of summarize everything up, there doesn't seem to be any missed activity until the unread text message from Rogan at 8:49:35. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is it correct that his screen does not ever come on again until after the 911 call?
Is screen coming on?
Yes, sir.
I believe it dies shortly after at like 10:30, so, I think 10:36.
And I'm aware of the screen
Okay.
coming on after the 911 call, but I'm asking, did it come on at any time between this text from Rogan and those after 10 o'clock times?
Let me just double check. I show a display screen on at 10:20:08.
Okay, so the answer is no?
It does turn on. That's what you asked, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking if it turns on before the 911 call.
Before the 911 call. For the whole day?
Well, it would be about an hour and
An hour.
10 minutes, but
I'm not seeing a screen on before the 911 call. In that 9 to...
so
10 o'clock
incoming
time
text
frame.
messages or calls, if they were received, did not cause the screen to come on.
That is correct.
CG is just
Is
gifted.
it possible, and I understand this may be a
membership.
question for a technical person, but is it possible that that's because the battery was at 2%?
Like I said, I would not know that answer.
Did anyone ask, hey, why isn't the screen coming on these notifications?
Unfortunately, I think it's hard to tell, with the experts, but that would be my assumption that it would be either low battery,
That's fair.
trying to conserve the
The
battery.
giant
'cause you
rat
don't
that
want
makes all the
your-
rules.
The
He's
light
gifted
takes so
membership
much
by CG. Thank you,
power,
CG.
so I would
And
assume
congratulations,
that would be the
giant rat.
answer.
So after, whatever happened after 8:49, his phone is not prompting him. It's not lighting up when things come in.
I don't know if it's vibrating or whatnot, but according to the data here, it is, it's not lighting up.
Now, I think the previous testimony was that whoever, if anyone saw his lock screen before the phone went dead, after the 911 call, would have seen the yo text. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
They would have also seen this 849 text, right?
The 849.
35.
35.
Or at least a notification that there were multiple texts, correct?
I would assume so, that's correct.
And there were at least 4 incoming calls from Rogan between 9:10 and 10:08, is that correct?
I'm going to go off of your account.
9:10 and 28 seconds,
Okay.
9:42 and 17 seconds. I think there's one at 9:57,
Okay.
one at 10:08.
Correct.
The one at 10:08, that would be during the 911 call, correct?
That is correct.
And that would be during the 911 call, before Alex Murdaugh leaves the scene to go up to the house and come back.
Based on the data, that's correct.
We don't actually know why the screen came on those 2 times, do we? At 9:10 and 18, and then 10, 18, and then 10:20.
We do not.
You know how long the screen stayed on those times?
I do not have that.
You don't know if it was 12 seconds? Okay. At the second one of those, the 10:20:08 screen on, doesn't the Alex Murdaugh's phone indicate he's walking at that time?
So we have a start time and an end time. Doesn't mean he's walking during the whole time, but that is what the
Well,
phone.
is this the
that's
start?
what,
I'm sorry. Let me just ask: is this the start? Your Honor, it's just a clarification.
Did you, as soon as the witness starts talking, then you start talking? Who's talking? Were you talking? Yeah. Well, go ahead.
So the phone parses the data. It gives you a start time and an end time. Doesn't mean they're walking during that whole time. It just takes a start time and end time and gives you that data.
Sure.
So to say that someone's walking during the whole time would be, unreasonable.
After the 911 call, was Rogan the first person Alex Murdaugh called?
After the 911 call?
Yes, sir.
Calls at 10:06:14. That you said Alex called?
Yes, the first person he called after hanging up with 911. Was it Rogan?
I have at 10:17:46, he calls Randy Murdaugh.
And that's his brother, correct?
That is correct.
Who was the second person he called?
He iMessages Randy and then calls Randy Murdaugh again. And then John Marvin.
John Marvin is another brother, correct?
Yep, at 10:19.
And then the third person he calls is Rogan, is that correct?
At that time, yes.
And is that about 2 minutes and 30 seconds after that first screen on time?
That's correct.
Okay. So not immediate, not the first person.
I think you're referring to that question that was previously during the 911 call. This is all after the 911 call.
Right. The question is, it's about 2.5 minutes after Paul's phone screen comes on that there's a call to Rogan, and it's the third person that Alex Murdaugh calls. Is that correct?
That was at 9:08. Wasn't the screen on?
No, 10:18 and 53 seconds.
That'd be correct.
So I think we went over that anyone who was looking at could see what was on Paul's screen, would see multiple missed messages, calls from Rogan right on the screen.
I would assume.
Even a call coming in during the 911 call.
I would assume, but
Okay. So as an investigator, do you think it would be terribly unreasonable that after calling other family members someone would call the person who is the best friend of the dead son, who had multiple missed messages and calls, and even a call coming in during the 911 call. Is calling that person to ask what happened, what's going on, is that, to you as an investigator, an unreasonable thing to do after calling other family members?
I would, as an investigator, I think that would be very odd, given the scene and the whole situation, that you're on the phone constantly, yes.
That you're standing there next to your dead son, his phone is ringing from someone, and you call that person after calling other people.
Yes, because I am standing over my son and wife, and it's just witnessing that for the first time. I would think that would be, to have someone on their phone constantly like that, right after, given the scene and the situation, yes, as an investigator, I would think that is very
It wouldn't be someone trying to find out what happened.
At that moment, that would be the last thing that would probably come through my mind as an investigator, looking at the scene, is trying to figure out what happened minutes after I discover it. I'd be in a state of shock if that was me personally.
And speaking of a state of shock, I think you have,
stupid question,
in the timeline later on, he reads some spam text message about, I think there's a picture of a woman in a bikini.
I wouldn't call it a spam text message. It's from Michael Gunn, who would be one of his friends.
A group text?
A group text, yeah.
And then he Googles the name of a restaurant in Edisto Beach, is that correct?
That is what comes up on his phone extraction.
And doesn't he also call a videographer he hadn't spoken to in years?
Can you give me a page number to refer to?
Yes. Page 42, Brian White, last entry.
That's what the data shows.
So he would seem to be in a state of shock. None of that makes any sense, does it? You're not going to Google the name of a restaurant after you find your son murdered.
I'm not Alex Murdaugh. I don't know what he was thinking at that moment. Probably wouldn't be on my phone.
Really, you wouldn't be calling family?
I might be calling family, but I wouldn't be
The testimony
Googling
was
and
that
doing
Rogan
stuff.
was family.
If you ask a question, if you want him to answer, you have to give him an opportunity to answer. Proceed.
I would not be Googling and doing other things with my phone, no.
Do you believe he was Googling a restaurant, or do you think he was fat fingering the phone because he was in shock?
I have to go off of the data, and that's what the data shows.
And you believe that calling family and calling someone that the prior testimony was like another son is unreasonable in the circumstances?
I would say so, yes. Given the fact that you just arrived to the scene, yes.
He goes back to that same question that burned him last time. Answer's the same.
And had just arrived back to the scene, had actually been there at that point 15, 20, 25 minutes, correct?
That's correct. I'd be doing anything I could to help my loved ones.
Now, kind of turning back to Maggie's phone, her screen was on at 9:06 and 12 seconds, right? That last orientation change.
Let me flip back to it. You said her screen was on?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Yeah, her phone was locked, but her screen, yeah, for the orientation from previous testimony, the screen had to be on for it to log the orientation changes.
So there was some movement of the phone between 9:06 and 12 seconds and 9:06 and 20 seconds.
That'd be my understanding given previous testimony, correct.
I'd like to know the restaurant he Googled.
And in this
That could have
period,
been a pocket dial or a handheld.
2 to
accident,
9:06
fat
and 47 seconds, Alex Murdaugh is walking, I think, 283 steps in that time period.
In that timestamp period, correct?
Yeah. But her phone is not. No one's walking with her phone, correct?
The phone is not logging any kind of steps. I don't know if someone's walking with it, but it's not logging steps at that time.
But at that time, Alex Murdaugh's phone is logging steps.
His phone's logging from 9:02:18 to 9:06:47. I believe her last log was in the 8 o'clock, the 8:53 to 8:55.
Her phone could have been in the car.
And at 9:06 and 14 or 15 seconds, Alex Murdaugh calls her phone, correct?
That is correct.
So he calls her phone while walking,
Or while driving.
or in a period in which his steps are being recorded by the phone, to be specific.
There's a begin time and an end time. He could have stopped walking a couple seconds, couple minutes into it. It doesn't give us that precise data from these phone distractions.
And that time period that he stops walking is 9:06 and 47 seconds, correct? And the car, the Chevy Suburban, starts a second later after that, right?
From the data, correct.
So it's a fair inference that he ends that by walking to the car, getting in and turning it on.
I'm not sure when exactly he got in the car or how long he was sitting in the car before, but this is what the timestamps show, and this is what the vehicle start time shows, and the end time for the steps.
So his phone is stepping, walking, while he calls Maggie's phone, which is moving, but not stepping with him. Is that what the data shows?
That's your inference on the data, but
Well, I mean, breaking it down, his phone is in a period of steps, correct?
unknown when there is steps during that period.
His phone is in this time period of steps, correct?
Correct.
Her phone is not in any period of steps, correct?
Correct.
Her phone in this time period where the phone call's coming in, 9:06, 12 seconds, 20 seconds, there's some motion because there's an orientation change, correct?
That's correct.
And he's calling the phone during this period that his phone's in steps, right, at that moment, right?
I cannot say that he's actually in steps at 9:06:12.
Yes, and you said it, but his phone says there's this period that he's walking, and in that period, between the start and end times, he's calling her phone.
That is correct, but you can see during the 911 call too that there's times where someone could be stopped, someone could be walking, so we don't know if he stopped at 9:05:15 and did the orientation changes and he's right at the car. I don't know that.
Do we know, we'll put this, do we have any evidence that her phone and his phone ever moved together? Not speculation, but evidence showing that they're moving together. Same person moving at the same time with both phones.
Moving together, like physically moving, or functioning in like?
Yes, that they're both moving. The same person is carrying both phones. They're moving at the same time.
I would argue that between 9:06:12 and 9:20, that the same person has both phones.
Because there's an orientation change and no steps on this phone.
You have an
this phone.
You have an orientation change starting while someone's calling, looking at the phone during that time period.
And would it perhaps be reasonable that someone has that phone and an incoming call comes in, the screen says Alex Murdaugh, and it gets tossed out a window? Is that another fair possible explanation?
That could be your explanation.
Why would that explanation be less fair than what you just said, based on the data?
It's how you interpret the data.
On the drive to Alameda and back, did Alec take any detours from the expected route?
Not that I could see. The route matched up with his interviews.
And in your timeline, we occasionally see these I guess, infotainment systems coming on, but nothing else happening. The prior testimony was that even the FBI engineer doesn't know why that is. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. He said it could be, you know, you get close to the vehicle. Sometimes when you, I don't know if you, newer GM vehicles, you get close to it and you can kind of hear a little buzzing noise. It's almost like the system's booting up. That's how he described it to me. It could be the key fob being close. It could be the car unlocking, locking, door opening. Just, they don't know what actually caused it, but it's just booting up and running in the background.
When you were looking at the sort of going in and out of park data, did you look at the data for other days than June 7th?
I did not.
So you wouldn't know whether on other days there are periods in which it seems to go in and out of park repeatedly in a short period of time?
I would not.
You wouldn't know if that happened on 6/4, 6/5, or also 6/6?
I would not, no. I was focusing on June 7th, 2021.
Would looking at those other days and seeing the same thing happen inform your interpretation of seeing it going in and out of park on 6/7?
I was just looking on the day of the murders.
I mean, if it did that every single day, would it seem unusual to also do it on 6/7?
That'd be a question for Mr. Fakowski, who actually looks at that data as a profession. It would.
He's going to make inferences about behavior based on the data, or is he just going to say what the data is?
He could say what the data is, but I wouldn't know an inference. I don't know someone's driving pattern and how they shift, and how would I know that?
And he would?
But how would I know that?
Well, the question really is, if it happens every day, is there anything unusual about it happening on 6/7?
A period of days is not every day. You'd have to look at I would assume a wide range of days to get.
How many?
I don't know.
If it happened every day for the preceding 3 days, would that be enough?
Every day is a new day. I would not, you know, something could happen different on a different day. I mean, I don't know how you could compare that data.
Move on. Oh my goodness.
You go different places, you do different things. Different things happen during drives. I don't think you could accurately show that.
You showed sort of towards the end some text messages, and one of them seemed to make a reference regarding possible drug use. Do you remember that?
I do.
And that was dated May 6th?
Do you have it? Do you have the copy pulled out? Are you referring to the text from Paul?
Yes, I am.
To Alex. Okay. I have May 6, 2021 at 10:52.
And then there was some Google searches by Maggie Murdaugh.
That is correct.
Are you aware of a text from Alec regarding pills to Maggie on May 7?
I would have to see the text.
Show you what's been marked as defendant's 138, which I believe.
Yep. I am very sorry that I do this all to you. I love you. Yep.
Objection. No objection to the exhibit, Your Honor.
I'll offer what's been marked as defendant's 138.
Let's admit it.
Okay, Elma. So this was Mr. Murdaugh's response to being confronted about the pills that you previously read.
I can only assume this is from Alex to Maggie. The text message I read was from Paul to Alex.
So his family was aware of his drug issues, correct? I mean, from the texts.
I would assume from the text.
And he was aware that they were aware, correct?
Correct.
And they appear to be loving and supporting.
Well, this is Alex to Maggie. If you read other text messages, she never responds to this that day, from what I saw. So I don't know, unless you have what she sent back, or if you can't ask them, I don't know if they were loving and supporting of it. This is from Alex to Maggie.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to see further text messages. I beg the court's indulgence. No further questions, Your Honor.
Direct.
May it please the court.
So you can get him back on track.
I was guilty.
All right, do we have the computer up? All right.
We're going back to the document.
Have you go to the jury room for a short break.
I think the judge needs a refill. It could be worse, Thomas. We could be sitting up there on the stand and have all those people looking at us, and a whole panel of jurors trying to remember what happened a year or two ago.
In recess for 5 minutes.
All rise.
That was a good soundbite. All rise. Okay. Nifty. What do you think of the cross? Effective, not effective? Lindsay, we just had the timeline. That was it. And then we had the cross of the timeline. They did point out a couple things that there were the glaring omissions, which that's what I thought they were going to go with, and they did. Anything they left off or discrepancies that showed up. Times where the phone says it just switched to portrait mode, and then it says it switched to portrait mode again. Some things that were notated by the experts but not included on the timeline. Not anything terrible. I think the biggest thing that he tried to get out, Mr. Barber tried to get out, was that there seems to be a period of time that Alex Murdaugh's phone recorded steps within that period of time, and during that period of time, Maggie's phone did not record steps. To me, my quick explanation would be her phone might have already been in the car. He might have put her phone in the car already, and he was walking around with his phone. So that would be a quick explanation there. I don't know why he would have to have her phone on him. Maybe he put it in the car and then hopped in the car to go and is like, oh crap, where's the phone? Called it, hears it ringing, immediately to portrait change, throws it out the window. That makes sense. I think that cross just hurt the defense more than anything, says Amber. It was effective enough, proved nothing, not super effective. Defense did as well as he could have. Hard to argue with computers, even though they're inaccurate often. Poll. Okay, I'll do this. I'll do that one. La 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 la. Let's see. Start a poll. Okay, was defense cross of timeline witness? Oops, let me delete that. Boom, boom, boom. Ask your community. Boom. Okay, polls up. Was the defense? Thank you for the suggestion. La 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 la. I hope you read the rest of the story about my granddaughter. The Lord works in his way, but Oxy is powerful. Karen, is it up further? I must have been sort of keeping an eye on the trial. Or did you send this to the burner phone? I'm not seeing. Defense should capitalize on Paul finding Alex pills. Proves his habit. Yeah, they definitely should. They should. That's a arrow in their quiver they should definitely draw on. The defense did a great job showing the timeline is meaningless because the witness testified the data was unreliable and inaccurate at points. Not all the data. The GPS data and the timestamps were good. Obviously the steps and the distance, those are approximates, which mean they are worthless. So yeah, I think they would have been better not including them. Steps per minute is impossible to calculate because a person can walk slower or faster, just be shaking their arm. Carol, I agree. I frequently, while sitting here at my desk, because I wear an Apple Watch while I'm here on the stream, and while sitting at my desk, I'll often receive my award for the day, saying, "Congratulations, you reached your stand goal." For the day, which I clearly have not. You guys could be there to testify that I have not. But the phone detected that I've been standing for a certain number of time every hour. But I'm falling well short of that. So I don't really trust all the data the phone generates. In this case, the watch generates. Even more to that, to me, it actually shows some sort of motive, possibly for blind rage. We learned Paul was Maggie's little detective. What if they took his pills during the nap? When was the nap, though, Lindsay? I had a hard time figuring out, and I think several of you did as well, looking at this timeline of his phone movements when the nap took place. Alpaca Renee says, is it worth renewing my Sam's Club membership to get your spicy maple bourbon pickles? No, Alpaca Renee, you can just get them at Walmart. They actually do not have them at Sam's Club. The brand is Sam's Choice, but it's only available at Walmart. And of course, in the Food Lion, their variety as well. Don't know if prosecution was organized, consistent, or strong enough to pull things off. Lindsay, I don't think this was rage-induced. If he did this, it was meticulously planned out. I agree. If he did this, it had to have been very well planned out. Okay. T-Rox, thanks for the encouragement for tonight. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun either way. I'm going to wrap up the poll here in just a minute. I would like to get the results in before the bailiff yells at us to sit down and shut up. How does it arrive at steps? I would assume difference of GPS coordinates divided by 2 feet. Ed, I believe it actually detects movements like a rise and a fall. So if you were to hold the phone like this and it would bounce like that, it will count the down positions as a step, assuming... if you were to look at like a side view of your body, as you take a step, your hips drop a little bit. And assuming your phone's in your pocket, it would be making this sort of movement as you move around. So it counts that. It uses the accelerometer and all the different sensors there. I'm sure, but I don't doubt he took a nap. Marianne even testified that it was usually his routine after work. But what I'm getting at is that it could have been a catalyst to a fight. I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine that he did this in a rage, that he snapped and did all this and was able to get all this planned out. That like in that state, in that rage state where he just, snaps and murders, loved ones, that he then effectively takes care of all the evidence. That he's just, he's prepared everything for any moment when he might just snap, and then he just goes into machine mode, Dexter style, and just makes it perfect. Do we know who or what killed the chicken? I think it was the dog, Bubba. Oh, that was quick. That was quick. It's going to be great, Samantha. We're going to love it. It's going to be fun.
May now be seated.
Bubba shot the jukebox, too.
You may bring the jury.
Must have played a sad song that made him cry. before he left for work, you could have gotten everything stationed. So you're saying he snapped, but it was like a delayed reaction snap. It wasn't like a rage in the moment. It was, I've snapped, and so I'm going to hurry and prepare this. A pedometer makes you set up your gait. Do cell phones? No, they don't, Jill. Cell phones use big data to start tracking you. For instance, if you have an iPhone and you pull up your iPhone and you unlock it, and then you swipe down on the screen, it will bring up a list of apps that it thinks you are about to use. It will predict what you're going to use, and over time it gets smarter and smarter. And my phone, based on my location, based on where I am, it will say, oh, I know that you're at Sam's Club, so the Sam's Club app is the one you want. I just swipe down and it's there. I come down here to my desk in the morning, at a certain time, swipe down, and it knows I want to pull up the burner phone. And so the phone, it uses your history and what you've done in the past to sort of build data about you. And over time, it gets better and better. Let's see. All the step stuff is sort of magical software. All they have is an accelerometer data from which the software decides is a step or not super trustworthy. I agree.
Well, thank you. You may proceed.
Special Agent Rudolski, a couple matters I have up on the screen. This is from your CAT slides from the defendant's trip coming back from Alameda. Is that right?
That is correct.
And going to this next slide, and this is the trip, what was the max speed the defendant hit on this trip back from Alameda back to Moselle, approximately?
I believe it was around 70.
70, okay.
I'm sorry, so the trip back to Moselle, that would have been around 80.
80?
Yep, the previous
And
one was around 70.
Did the data, while he was still at Alameda, did it reflect that the vehicle paused for a period of time in the driveway before continuing?
It did.
And would that pause affect that average speed that you calculated?
It would.
In that time?
It would.
I want to go to page 22 of your condensed timeline.
Okay.
And up at the top, tell the jury what time period the data reflects that Maggie Murdaugh's backlight was off.
It shows from 9:07 p.m. to 9:31:44 p.m.
And during the entirety of that time period, does the data reflect that her phone was also locked?
It does.
Could turn to page 18.
I forgot to do that. I'm doing that now. Looks like 71% say no, 28% say yes. The defense cross.
Page 19, my apologies.
Okay.
From 8:53 to 8:55, what does the data reflect? Any steps logged on Maggie's phone?
The data reflects Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone shows 59 steps logged.
Can the data tell who was holding that phone during that time period?
It does not, no.
If you could turn to page 39, please. At 10:20:08, what happens, if anything, on Paul's phone?
Paul's iPhone, it shows display on, screen auto lock.
Screen auto lock?
That is correct.
What is your understanding again of auto lock?
My understanding of auto lock, so the phone is already locked, but it's just an automatic feature that when the screen turns on, it just auto locks. It just logs it as auto locks even though it's already locked.
Could that be from not recognizing a face?
Either a face or, pushing the button on the side, but yeah.
What's the next entry on your timeline after that screen on auto lock on Paul's phone at 10:20:08? The very next entry at 10:21:25.
Alex calls Rogan. So at 10:20:08, we have that screen on and auto lock, and at 10:21:25, Alex calls Rogan Gibson.
In preparing this timeline here today for the jury and for this investigation, what was your specific job with that timeline?
The specific job was just to take all the data that we collected throughout this whole investigation and put it in one concise document.
Synthesize it together in one timeline.
That is correct.
From multiple sources.
From multiple sources.
Provided to you by experts.
That is correct.
Thank you, Special Agent Dawson.
Anything further?
Burner phone's going nuts right now.
A question was asked about peak speeds to and from Moselle.
Ivan walks a ton, like
Did you look
12,000
to
steps
see
a day.
if he passed anyone on the way there or back?
What do you mean passed anyone? Like a vehicle?
Yes, that his car passed another vehicle on a 2-lane road.
I don't know how I'd be able to tell that with this data.
So you don't know if a very fast peak speed was simply gunning it to pass another car?
I do not. But at that late night hour, I would think that'd be, with, you know, the area, not a lot of people out.
I mean, that's just total speculation. You don't know if there's another car out
Just
there or
like
not.
yours is total speculation that he
Right.
passed someone.
You don't
That'd be
know.
correct. Yep, I do not know.
Yeah. You don't know if there are any other cars out there to pass. You don't know if he was passing another car. You just don't know, do you?
I do not, just like with your first question.
And you also don't know why Paul's phone, the screen came on those 2 times at 10:18 and 10:20, do you?
I do not physically know.
That second time that the phone came on was at that moment, Alec was actually on the phone with John Marvin, correct?
At what time?
The second time that the phone came on, 10:20, and I believe it was 8 seconds.
So at 10:20 and 8 seconds, that's when we have the display on. And at 10:21:25, Alex calls Rogan
And
Gibson.
at 10, when the display comes on, at that very second, Alex Murdaugh was on the phone, his phone, with John Marvin, correct?
If you do the math, I believe so, correct.
And this was also during a period in which, according to his phone, he's walking around, though again, we don't know if he was walking that exact second. But it's during a period of steps,
It's during
correct?
a period, correct.
Walking around on the phone with John Marvin. No further questions, Your Honor.
Let me step down.
Here it is. Listen, guys. This is the moment.
From the state.
Your Honor, as discussed, we request a very brief recess for housekeeping matters.
All right, the housekeeping matters are noted. Any further witnesses by the state?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
State rests but for the housekeeping matters.
The housekeeping matters, and then, yes, at that point, the state would formally rest. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have you go to the jury room for another break. Please do not discuss the case.
Another break. Lots of breaks today. Okay, so they rest. I don't remember what these housekeeping matters were that they wanted to bring up. But basically the state is saying that we don't have any more witnesses. You've heard it all. We've played all our cards, or at least we've played our hands. They might have more as far as lined up that they know they're going to use for rebuttal witnesses. Generally, that's they've probably got some people that they could use if they need to, depending on what the defense does.
So what type of housekeeping matters do you have?
I just wanted to do, as my practice, is just one final exhibit check, make sure that there was nothing missed. It will just take a moment, Your Honor.
All right.
Everybody up to the clerk's table. Let's crowd around. Everyone stand around the screen. Come on, guys. You can get up here. It's all right.
Motion that we will make. I mean, perhaps we could do it while the jury's out, but then he can formally
That's why I did it in the manner in which I did it. We'll do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the mics were off, so I didn't get to hear what Jim was saying there. The housekeeping matter is the state wants to verify that all the information, all their exhibits that they have entered, all their evidence has been formally submitted. In case they missed something, they might have presented something or shown it to a witness and then forgot to say, we'd like to enter this as into evidence or move that be entered in. So they're going over that just to make sure everything is I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Should just take a couple moments. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the defense portion. So the jury will be brought back. It is only about 4 o'clock. We're going to go probably for another maybe 2 hours, maybe a little less, hour and a half. It's 3:52, so maybe 2 hours. Depends how long the judge wants to go. But defense is going to start. We're going to have 2 short witnesses. That's what they tell us. So maybe they'll be little kids, dwarfs, midgets. I'm not sure what they're going to do here, but they said they were going to be short witnesses, and we'll go from there. I like silly jokes. That's how I am. They wanted to match the exhibits, etc. Well, I got to type faster. Yep. Will the defense be able to make any statements that the jury can chew on over the long weekend? Yes. Well, not really statements. They might present evidence that will be good. But it sounds like we're going to get all their expert testimony starting next week. How far away is Columbia? I think the judge is from there. Isn't that where Buster's girlfriend gave him an alibi from? Yes, I believe so. I believe you're right, CG, and that's considerable. Let's see. What's the town they're at? Varnville or something? I don't remember. That's where Almeda is. Let's see. Who's asking here? When you need to find yourself a happy place, just look up at the chandelier. Isn't this beautiful? We can just take a gander at that anytime we want. It looks awesome. Don't worry about COVID. Let's all group together. I want tall witnesses, though. Those come next week, DMB. Tall witnesses next week with impressive resumes, I might add. Housekeeping, they're going to clear up the courtroom. It's about time, Wendy. All those, have you seen like the empty water bottles all over the place and just stuff strewn everywhere? This place is a mess. Why can't they do it at the end of the day? It's sort of like procedural. It's just like once the state rests, they shouldn't be calling more witnesses unless there's like something out of the ordinary that the judge gives permission for. They have their turn to do different things in, and during the state's turn, they submit their evidence. They shouldn't be submitting evidence during the defense turn.
As Your Honor knows, after the evidence is closed, if there's a failure of competent evidence tending to prove the charge in the indictment,
directed verdict.
The defendant is entitled to a directed verdict. The court should consider only the existence or non-existence of the evidence and not its weight. In this case, Your Honor, the evidence is exclusively circumstantial, and in State v. Dent, the South Carolina Court of Appeals in 2021 explained that the standard to be applied when the state relies upon circumstantial evidence is that all of the circumstances must be consistent with each other, and when taken together point conclusively to the guilt of the accused beyond a reasonable doubt. If their circumstances merely portray the defendant's behavior as suspicious, the proof has failed. And also another legal doctrine that we would point out is mere presence at the scene of a crime without more is insufficient to constitute guilt. The reason I say that legal doctrine, Your Honor, is at most what the state has proven and offered of proof is that the defendant was at the kennels at 8:44. He misstated that he was there, or he lied about he was being down there, and that raises a level of suspicion, and that they have concocted a cell phone timeline to come up with a time of death without any actual evidence of time of death. And there is no direct and frankly circumstantial evidence presented that the defendant shot and killed his wife Maggie or son Paul. As the evidence established, the murderer would have had blood and biological material on him or her. The murderer would have had blood on his or her clothing. The murderer would have murder weapons, The murderer or murderers would have evidence of disposing of murder weapons on property or vehicle, and there's no evidence that Alex Murdaugh had any of this. He had no blood from the brutal murder of his son Paul. He had no DNA from Paul on his clothing in an area where you would expect to find it if he had shot his son, which he did not. There's no GSR on his clothing or clothes that is inconsistent with Alec holding a shotgun for protection. The state has proven at most that he was at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. The state does not have proof of time of death. The state does only have proof of when the last time Paul and Maggie used their phones. Most importantly, and as I mentioned earlier, the law is clear, mere presence at the scene of a crime is insufficient to establish guilt. Although, to be equally clear, Alex Murdaugh was not at the scene of the crime at the time his wife and son were murdered, and there's no evidence that he was. And for that reason, we move for a directed verdict.
Yes, sir. By the state.
Your Honor, looking at the evidence that's been presented by the state, first of all, without detailing every bit of evidence, there's been ample evidence of motive evidence presented in this particular case. The years of embezzlement and theft and the exposure, very significant exposure that the defendant was facing as June the 7th approached, would include the loss of a job, the loss of a career, the loss of his bar license, the loss of years of wealth, the potential to lose everything, in his own words. You've heard evidence about a confrontation June 7th on those matters that very day, as well as the boat hearing that was upcoming. And the effects that would have. Also heard extensive evidence of the defendant's financial condition on that day as it moved forward. Also evidence, Your Honor, of his ongoing narcotics addiction and how those particular things were relevant to what was going on as it related to the victims. There's been evidence, and again, as Your Honor is aware, the evidence must be taken in the light most favorable to the state, that family weapons were used to murder Maggie and Paul. You've heard evidence from the defendant's own mouth about a missing shotgun, and of course we have extensive evidence about the missing blackout, that being the replacement gun. Of course, you've heard evidence that the defendant claimed that was missing at Christmas time, but there was evidence from Will Loving that that gun was present and being used, including at the side of the house as late as turkey season, just a couple months prior to the murders. And that from the firearms expert, that the cases found around Maggie's body were cycled through the same weapon. The murder weapon cycled the same cases as weather cases that were found at the side of the house, consistent with what Will Loving testified, as well as at the shooting range across the street. You've additionally heard that the same exact brand and weight of ammo that was used to kill Maggie was found throughout the property, as well as the same buckshot and birdshot ammo as well. There's been evidence presented by the state as to the defendant's trip to Alameda and his interaction with Shelley Smith after the murders, as well as the bringing the raincoat in. Additionally, that he left and moved his dad's truck in the four-wheeler, and that the raincoat contained high levels of GSR. There's been evidence presented in this particular case inconsistent with the defendant's statements to law enforcement, multiple changes of clothes that particular day, as well as evidence from Blanca that the clothes that he was wearing in the Snapchat video were never seen again, as well as the fact that the earlier clothes that he was wearing were not seen either. You have evidence that the defendant claimed that he was unaware that Maggie was coming to Moselle, or he did not ask for that, but you've heard evidence from multiple sources, including a text message that he specifically asked the victim to be present on that day. Your Honor, he was found in possession of a shotgun that cannot be excluded as a murder weapon that also had Maggie's blood on it. And then, of course, Your Honor, we have extensive phone and other digital evidence, and I don't need to reiterate the last witness, but that's been presented from multiple witnesses and multiple sources of a timeline. The defendant, of course, claimed that he was never at the scene, and the evidence shows, pursuant to the state's theory and reasonable inferences therefrom, that he was at the scene, contrary to what he told everyone who would listen. Just minutes, he's at the scene with the two victims just minutes before, under the state's theory and a reasonable inference from the evidence, the victims were killed. Additionally, his conduct in the timeline after that, there's a number of reasonable inferences about that that are consistent with the defendant's guilt. And to summarize a month's worth of evidence, that is the summary. But happy to address the timeline more, but I know that Your Honor just heard it in great detail.
There's a motion for directed verdict that's made at the end of the state's case. The court is concerned with whether there is any evidence, either direct or circumstantial, which
you have to look at it in the light most favorable to the state, I think, too, here.
To prove the guilt of the accused, or from which the guilt of the accused may be fairly and logically deduced. In this case, we have had, is it day 20 now? I guess 18 days of direct and circumstantial evidence. And the law makes no distinction between the weight or value to be given either direct evidence or circumstantial evidence. Nor is a greater degree of certainty required of circumstantial evidence than of direct evidence. Cases can be proven by direct evidence, circumstantial evidence, or a combination of the two. At this stage of the proceedings, there's evidence to support a guilty verdict if it is believed by the jury. I therefore deny the motion for a directed verdict. Ready to roll with the defense?
Rock and roll, Your Honor.
Rock and roll. All right, well, let's take a 30-second stretch and bring the jury out.
I think Harpoot means the Rock. Okay, nobody really expected that to be granted by the judge. That is as James was saying, it's been 10 years since he's been able to have a judge issue a directed verdict. But certainly not after 3 weeks of direct and indirect, circumstantial evidence testimony. That would be absurd for a judge at this point to do it, unless it was just a complete frame job with nothing that connected the dots. Alex looks just like Alex looks like this is just a bother. Can I leave yet?
And let's see. You can bring the jury. You may bring the jury. There you go. Be seated, please.
He has an assistant that helps him keep track of the days. I thought Alex Murdaugh looked dissatisfied. He was sort of chewing on his lip a little bit, like, huh. And then he sort of gave it a little frown or something afterwards. Roxanne says he lied, erased messages, premeditated by getting his wife to come home and go with him to see his mom or dad. I think it was his
Madam
dad.
Forelady.
Did you hear that? Madam Forelady.
How's the jury doing? Doing good. Very good.
Madam Forelady. It's a woman that
you
you
have
charge.
heard the state's case. It is now the defense's turn. And you may call your first witness.
All right. Coroner Richard Harvey, please. Yeah. Go with I'm sorry. Do you know what she looks like? Okay, good.
Do you know what she looks like? This is a coroner? Coroner Richard Harvey, is that what he said?
Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
You would, sir, be seated. State your full name for the record and spell the last part.
Okay.
He's back. This is round two, right?
We begin testimony. I think, Mr. Waters, you're going to formally rest.
May it please the court, Your Honor. In the matter of the indictments of the defendant Alex Murdaugh for the murders of his wife Maggie and his son Paul, the state of South Carolina rests.
The state is rested, and now it's the defense's turn.
It was nice to get that done officially. We should have done that, but Not a big deal.
State your full name for the record, please.
My name is Richard Harvey.
And Mr. Harvey, you are an elected official here in Colleton County?
Yes, sir. I am the coroner of Colleton County.
Okay, and briefly describe your duties to the jury
Different
so they
Harvey.
understand what a coroner does.
We basically investigate any death that occurs outside a hospital, any death that dies within 24 hours of admission to a hospital, any emergency room death is reported to the coroner's office as well. And primarily our responsibility is to do an investigation as to the cause of their death, including medical records, autopsies, and that's basically my responsibility, is to determine what the cause of death and the manner of death is.
So,
weren't they just aggravating factors on the deaths?
you don't have a medical degree, though?
No,
On
sir.
murders?
Okay.
But I was one of the first medically trained coroners in the state of South Carolina.
Okay. And how long have you been coroner?
This is my 30th
600
year.
years.
30th year. So let me talk a little bit about in general. Well, no, let me just go ahead and cut to the chase here. You have a file with you, and I believe it's a file concerning the deaths of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh.
I do.
And how did you get notified of their deaths?
I was actually notified by one of my deputies who was on call that evening. And any time there's a homicide along that lines, in most cases, I attend those. And he was on call, and basically he told me he also has another job because he's only part-time. And he told me, he says, look, I can't stay. He says, I've got to work tomorrow morning. And he says, you know, I hate to dump this on you, but he says, but, you know, this is going to be yours.
So you took, well, first let me back up for just a second. Did you respond, and if so, what time did you get to the scene? And I'm going to lead you and say in Moselle.
I was notified
No
at 23:04, which is 11:04 in the evening.
Okay.
And I arrived on the scene. Let me back up there. I arrived on the scene at 23:04. I was actually notified about 22:30 by my deputy who was on call.
So 22:30 would be 10:30?
Yes, sir.
So you got notified at 10:30, you got on the scene at
11:04.
And were you by yourself?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Did you process this scene? Did you have somebody did you take photographs or something?
Yes, sir, I did.
So the photographs in your file
Yes,
are
sir.
your photographs?
Yes, sir.
And in taking those photographs, did you, for instance, go into the feed room and take some photographs?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And had that crime scene been processed by SLED at that point?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you do anything to, and I'll be frank with you, there's some footprints that have been identified as law enforcement or perhaps your folks that were in the feed room, perhaps in blood, before SLED had finished processing. Are those your folks or SLED or who, do you know?
I'm unaware of those.
Okay. So when you took those photographs, did you take precautions how do you not disturb evidence?
We've always kind of followed a pattern of we follow the same path in and the same path out. Therefore, we don't cross over into any possible assailants.
Okay. And again, you're preserving evidence. It's a homicide, so this is your
Correct.
case, right? And you do that pursuant to state law.
Yes, sir.
And we've received your photographs. Thank you for those. And I think you gave them to SLED also, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you perform a function also. I've looked at the death certificates of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, and you have a time of death of 9 o'clock. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's go through when you begin to examine the body to determine a time of death. Tell me how you do that.
Well, initially that evening, When I initially got there, I was told that SLED was coming, which I knew, depending on where SLED was coming from.
Could take an hour or so.
It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. It all depends on what part of the state and what group is actually coming to you. My initial processing was that I went and checked both bodies. And I simply put my hands in their armpits to determine how warm they are. This is one of the things we do sometimes.
It's a scientific
to
test.
try and estimate a time of death. Is the body cold? Is the body warm? And one of the other things we check for is what they call rigor. And rigor is basically
this guy's been around the block.
When a person dies, the body goes through this process, and as it goes through this process, your joints start to stiffen up. And when I initially got there, that was all I did initially because I knew SLED was coming.
So was rigor or rigor? I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
I call it rigor.
I call it rigor, but so if you'll allow me to say rigor.
That's fine.
I've never said rigor. Was there rigor or rigor?
There was not.
Okay, so these folks had been dead less than a couple hours?
1 to 3 hours typically is what they say that rigor should start developing.
Okay, and in terms of trying to estimate or get it a little bit closer than 1 to 3 hours, you took your hand. Show me what you did, and you did it both for Paul and Matt.
Yes.
Stick your hand in my armpit. That's what I just heard.
Let me see how we get this. See it.
Oh man, we get to see this.
Could you
Here we
step
go.
down here, please?
Sure.
I don't want you guys to miss this. Let's get all the angles here.
And they were laying on the ground, both of them, right?
Yes, sir.
And did you move them?
No.
Okay, so...
They were covered with a sheet initially when I got there.
Right, so let's have you stand over
Okay.
here so the jury can see me. And you went up to Paul, and where did you put your hand?
I have to think now which way Paul was laying.
I'm not worried about
Right,
those left
okay.
or right.
Basically what I did is I lifted his arm up just a little bit here, and I stick my hand up into the armpit. And that's one of the central areas of your body without using the only other choice is a rectal thermometer. And in most cases, when you have that many people around, I'm not going to pull somebody's pants down to utilize a rectal thermometer. So I stick my hands in their armpit, and like I say, I can get an idea, how warm they are.
Okay, and you did the same thing to Maggie.
I did the same thing to Maggie.
And you concluded
there's
on
no
your
people
death
around.
certificate 9 o'clock.
It's strictly an estimation.
That's a guess.
It's a guess.
Okay, could have been 8:30.
Could have been 8:30.
Could have been 10 o'clock.
There were no witnesses there to tell me exactly what time this happened.
Do you carry a rectal thermometer to do specific measurements?
Well, usually what I'll do is I'll get it from fire rescue, the ambulance, and I'll borrow theirs. And yes, I do rectal temps.
But you didn't do it on that.
But we didn't do it
that means you return it and then you use it again?
And that's the reason the death certificate says 9 o'clock.
Right. That was an estimation from what I found as far as the warmth of the body.
Okay. Thank you for indulgence.
Oh, man. So, should I have him demonstrate the preferred method? There's only room for one touchy-feely lawyer in this court. Yes. I'm so glad he didn't use the thermometer.
I just want to make sure that we understand each other.
The demonstration for the jury would have been a lot different.
9 o'clock. It could have been 8 o'clock.
It could have been 8 o'clock.
Their death could have been the result of being shot at 8 o'clock.
I basically looked at 2.5 hours from the time that the call came in to the time I actually got there.
So they could have been shot at 10 o'clock.
Could have been.
Or any time in between.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Coroner. Please answer any questions.
By the state.
Mr. Harvey, you did not use rectal or any sort of thermometer on that night?
No, sir.
And isn't it true that the best way to determine the actual time of death, particularly in a violent homicide, is to take the temperature?
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And the temperature decreases roughly at a rate of 1.5 degrees every hour.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
And it's also affected by the ambient temperature in the
Correct.
area.
Yes, sir.
Yet, as I understand your testimony, correct me if I'm wrong, you really do not have a general idea as to when that incident actually occurred.
That's right. Yes, sir. That's true.
Because you didn't take the temperature, correct?
Right. And thermometers are not always accurate either. So, and that's one thing that we've learned over the years. I mean, we do have, and actually we now have the, I can't think of ultraviolet light, the light that shoots for the forehead. But what I've determined with that is that it's not necessarily accurate, is that I may shoot it at the forehead and it'll say 99 degrees, but if I shoot it in your ear, it might say 103.
That's right.
So, I mean, they're not necessarily accurate either.
That's correct. And it's also impacted by body weight,
Absolutely,
correct?
absolutely.
This guy's not helping the state at all.
Yes, sir.
Versus youth,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And the weather,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
This guy will answer any
if
question
they
on
were
cross.
covered,
Any
by
question.
Yes, sir.
sheet, that
Which
would-
they were at that time when I initially got
That could maintain something?
Yes, sir.
If they got wet through rain, that could affect it?
that could, yep, that could
And
definitely.
you had
drop it.
rain at that time, didn't you?
It had not rained hard at that point. Both
Not hard.
Both of their hairs were, heads of hair were dry.
Okay. And all those are factors which reflect what the actual
Look at
time of
Creighton.
death is.
Yes,
Look
sir.
at Creighton.
Yet
Please make
temperature
this
is
stop.
key.
Yes, sir.
And the only information you have is that the bodies were warm, correct?
Yes, sir.
Based upon
And
your...
Riger had not started.
And that usually begins to occur within 1 to 3 hours.
1 to 3
correct?
hours. So that's the time frame that I was looking at.
Okay. And you walked around the area, got close to
This
them
is an
at that
assistant
particular
DA.
time.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that
I
correct?
believe his mouth is wired shut right now.
And you were walking in the scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Yes, sir.
2 questions.
Sure.
Do you remember when SLED showed up?
I do have probably the times for that.
This is fun. This coroner, he's probably great at what he does. He's not an expert witness. I mean, by that I mean he's not very skilled at this. He would answer every single question about the timeline if you put it to him, I think. I mean, like, we're talking the cell phone data, car data. He would interpret everything. He'd venture guesses and expound fully. Probably a great guy.
I did not see SLED on here, though.
Let me perhaps ask another question.
Okay.
Was Carleton County already there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were there Carleton County detectives there?
Yes, sir. They're,
Okay. Did any of them talk to you about time of death?
no,
Did any of them ask you what your examination revealed?
no,
Did any of them ask you how you came to your decision at the time of death?
no, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Yes, sir.
Shailene Tyndall to the stand, please.
Shailene Tyndall. Adam, I'm going to need you to type that one up for me. Or DMB or somebody, whoever's first to get the testifying witness line ready for me to pin. Although I would like factual information in this pinned message. Entertaining stuff is also appropriate.
Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
If you would please be seated. State your full name for the record. Spell your last name. And try to speak in that mic so they can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So his testimony was basically that they died between 8:30 and 10 p.m.
I'm Shalane Tyndall,
And so he just chose the name.
SHALANETINDAL.
Talked on the phone a couple times,
Yes, sir.
but we've never met, have we?
No, sir.
Okay. And I appreciate you being willing to come here on such short notice today. I know you've got other things to do. So, where do you work?
I work for the Gallatin Sheriff's Office as public information part-time, and then for my full-time position, I work for the nonprofit blood organization, The Blood Connection, as the divisional logistics coordinator and calendar specialist.
Okay. Let me find my glasses, I'm sorry. So, back on June 7th and 8th of 2021, what was your job? What was your job back then with the
I was solely the public information officer at the Sheriff's Office at that time.
Colleton County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to show you a document and see if you can identify this. I think the easiest way to do that is...
Not to be confused with Tinder.
Hold on one second, I'm sorry. Apologize, Your Honor, I've just gotten my two documents jumbled. Here we go.
I got my two documents mixed up. Please give me a few minutes while I can sort these two pages out.
Have you seen this document before?
Ah, that's good insight, Lindsay. Good guess
I'm
on this.
aware of the Post and Courier
The press
publishing
release.
things of this nature, yes, but not strictly this document in
Okay, if you
question.
go to the second page.
They asked almost every witness at the first part of the trial about this report.
Now, does this, if you look halfway down the page, does that, there is a quote in here from you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is it accurate?
This quote was actually coordinated between SLED and us at the time. We received multiple inquiries from the media, and per the sheriff's standard protocol, anytime SLED is in charge of a case or investigation, it's standard procedure to reach out to them and coordinate something with them.
Okay, so the quote from you, this is on the morning, this is the Post and Courier on the morning of June 8th, and the quote contained by you in here, we'll get how that was put together, but is it accurate?
The quote wasn't by me, it was a joint information from SLED and the sheriff's office.
Sheriff spokeswoman Shalane Lowe's referred questions. So, but you were part of the release of this statement?
Yes, it was a joint.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to offer this into evidence.
It was a joint.
No, could I look at it, please?
She's a part-time public information officer who talked to the press and released a statement without the sheriff signing off on it, saying that there was no danger to the community. That's what they're talking about.
Your Honor, I have no objection. We have no objection to the quote, but the article, I hadn't read the article. We just object to the rest of the article, and I think he's agreed with that.
I just want these two paragraphs.
This is going to be used by the defense to state that from the very get-go, the police had decided to pin this on Alex.
No objection.
No objection to what?
To her quote that she gave and not the rest of the article. We're in agreement on that, if Your Honor is.
Is that what you're offering?
Yes, sir. I'm going to have her publish two paragraphs from this story. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And for the record, Your Honor, this is a story in the Post and Courier on the morning of June 8th, which would be the morning after the murders. So what I'd ask you to do is, it's in quotes, would you read this paragraph and this paragraph, publish it to the jury? This paragraph at this time, and then the paragraph right after that, okay? Take it. And would you slow down just a little bit for me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, there is no danger to the public. The sheriff's office said, if information is received that dictates otherwise, we will immediately notify the public. Sheriff spokeswoman Shalane Lowe's referred questions regarding the incident to SLED and the Colleton County Coroner's office. A request for 911 audio recordings was denied due to the ongoing investigation.
What? I'm sorry, she went further than I
She went too far. I didn't tell her to stop.
Right. Now, so that statement was the public has nothing to worry about, right?
That's what it states, yes, sir.
Okay, now, let me ask you the process for this getting, something like this getting released. You said SLED was involved?
Can you clarify exactly what you're asking?
Okay, so this
Who
statement.
approved this message?
At this time, there's no danger to the public, the sheriff's office said. You would be the spokesperson for the sheriff's office.
Correct, but this was a joint statement released in coordination with SLED's PIO and us while we were waiting on an updated information to do an actual letterhead release.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is on that, were you, who, did you release, were you the one making this release or was SLED making, I mean, when I say, I'm talking about physically, how did the Post and Courier get this quote?
SLED and I, PIO at the time, coordinated multiple times through numerous phone calls. There's also emails. This was discussed over the phone due to them being the acting agency on the case, but it did come from my email, but it was coordinated with SLED's PIO at the time.
Okay, so SLED signed off on this statement.
From what I understand from speaking with their PIO at the time.
I mean, you consulted with their, now PIO stands for?
Public Information Officer.
Okay, so the Sheriff's Department has a Public Information Officer, you.
Yes, sir.
SLED has a Public Information Officer named?
At the time, I believe it was Tommy Crosby.
Tommy Crosby. Y'all talked and emailed?
On numerous occasions from the time of the incident on further.
And decided this was the statement that should be made?
When I coordinated with SLED's PIO, this is what was mentioned and this is what we had published.
Okay, and what you're saying is there's no danger to the public. If information is received that dictates otherwise, we'll immediately notify the public. Did you ever, was there a subsequent release given?
After this statement that we put out?
Right.
Yes, there was a joint letterhead release. The initial, what the Post and Courier published was an actual statement. Later on, we actually published a release while we were waiting on additional information.
And that subsequent statement didn't indicate there was any danger to the public. It didn't change this position, did it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Did SLED and the Sheriff's Department change its position and put out a statement saying, whoa, now, there's something to worry about? Or did they just not mention this again?
When we did the updated release, that same information was also in the body that was sent over to SLED for their approval. Tommy Crosby had taken a moment to look at the release and later, I guess, decided that we took that out of the release and that it was what was published, excuse me.
So, but they never came back and said, there's something to worry about. They just took this language out.
Yes.
Okay. And SLED signed off on that?
We worked on this together, yes.
Okay, but it wouldn't have gone out if SLED hadn't said?
Yes, sir.
Let it out, correct? I mean, you get information and then you shape it into a release here or subsequently that is digestible. Maybe that's the best way to put it. You're the wordsmith. You're the one that tries to make it make sense.
Yes, sir. Public information, we're not privy to investigations. We just receive details. And then we take those and turn them into paragraphs so the paper and anywhere in the media can print for layman's terms to be better understood by the public.
And I want to make sure I understand this. Any subsequent release never changed. Actually, I think you said the subsequent release said the same thing. At this time, there's no danger to the public. That didn't change, correct?
In the updated release that was sent out on letterhead, yes, that was removed.
That was removed?
Yes, sir.
But did they say there is a danger to the public? They never said that, did they?
No, sir.
Beg the court's indulgence for just a moment.
For some reason, it's important to the defense. They've asked several witnesses at the beginning of this trial to authenticate or if they're aware of this article that the Post published stating there was no danger to the public. It was objected to quite a bit. They didn't.
One other question. In this story, your last name is Lowe's?
Yes, sir. I got married since then. I guess somebody decided to like me.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
They swiped right or left. Which one was it? Now the state might rip her apart on this one a little bit, because every other person has said there was no statement released. SLED said we didn't release any statement. No, we don't release statements like that. I think she might have gotten a little hasty, maybe jumped the gun a little bit.
I missed the last question. Did you get married?
Yeah, you sure trying to court me? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm happily married. I am not.
I'm just kidding.
I just couldn't hear.
Wow.
What was the date of the second release that Mr. Harpoon? I honestly don't know.
Am I talking into you?
Yes, ma'am.
The date of the second is the
Hear
same
Mr.
date.
Meadows. I apologize, Your Honor.
The date of the second.
The initial letterhead release was released on the same date a few hours after the initial statement.
So the one he was asking about second was the same exact statement, word for word, that was released earlier?
No, the second, what we initially put out at around, I think before 10 o'clock in the morning, we had received inquiries from Fitz News, News 4, and I believe the Post and Courier. So the initial statement that I coordinated with SLED was what he was referring to. Afterwards, an updated letterhead release, as additional information became available to us, was coordinated with SLED that redacted that information.
Wow,
and I'm just going to show you, for this, is this the document you're talking about here? And it's dated June 21st. Is that what you're talking about or not?
No, that is not.
Congratulations on your marriage. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Anything further?
Only this question. Did you think that Mr. Meadows was proposing to you a moment ago?
I don't know. I'm just picking.
No further questions. Thank you.
You may step down.
Southern men flirt very differently. Lucky Team Hogue, welcome to the gallery. I love the Team Hogue hashtag. Awesome, and welcome. Appreciate you joining. Thanks for your support.
Any additional witnesses today?
Your Honor, as we've discussed, the next witness would be extraordinarily lengthy. It's 4:30. I
I've had two short ones,
to
now
the
we're going
jury
to have a
and
really
court for
long
not
one.
having somebody intermediate, but we just couldn't find anybody, not knowing when the state was going to rest.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will adjourn for the weekend. As you know, Monday is a holiday. We will not
Long
be
weekend.
here on Monday. We'll be back 9:30 Tuesday morning. I know it's a long holiday, but still do not discuss the case with anyone. And hope have a safe and happy holiday and a good weekend. And we'll see you all on Tuesday morning at 9:30.
Don't discuss the case, and also don't try to re-elect a new foreman. The judge has assigned their foreman. They have to stick with it. Lucky, you came in to become a member and immediately drop 5 gift memberships. Thank you very much. Looks like Mags, Panda Beery, Marla Finch, Jared T., and Laura Jimenez. Congratulations, and thank you, Lucky, for your generous donation. Appreciate that. Welcome, new members. All of you can use the exclamation point seat command in chat and move up to the front row. Although court is pretty much over for the day, you can sit up here just for the rest of the day.
Okay, we'll see everyone next week.
All right.
All rise. Okay, as they are leaving, I want to remind you guys that tonight, Thomas and I have our first edition of a podcast. It will be on this channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So we've got about 4.5 hours, roughly, by my math, for us to hurriedly throw something together. No, just kidding. We've been working on this for quite a while. We're super excited, although I am nervous. I'm very nervous. I can go live every day all week for months at a time and not bat an eyelid. But suddenly the idea of having it called a podcast makes me very nervous. But I would invite all of you to, if you can, either join us at 9 p.m., because it will be a live podcast, or to watch it after the fact sometime over this weekend. Let us know what you think. We do want to incorporate your involvement in our podcast. It's not going to just be the two of us talking at you or at each other. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I would invite you to do that. I'm looking forward to doing this tonight, and Weather Watch, Thomas, is fantastic. You've seen him on several times, has been on the show here, and we're just really excited to get this kicked off. So thank you very much for that. As we can we just hang out together till then, says Rowdy. I'm going to need just a little bit of break. I'm going to change into something more presentable because I don't want to be the worst dressed person on the podcast. I'm not going to go all the way up to like shirt and tie, but I want to put on best foot forward on this one. I know that Thomas has some other engagements. He's going to be running back. He's got like a prior engagement he has to run from, leave early to get here for the podcast. So it's going to be good. We have everything lined up there. I will have a little placard, like a little hold spot. I don't know what to call it. It's a little notification window on my YouTube channel showing that it will start. So you can click that and then click the notify button. You'd be notified right when we start. We're not going to be giving away the internet at the beginning of that live stream. We only do that on the Recovery Addicts show. So Myra, you won the internet this afternoon, being first in chat. So you have duties related to internet ownership all weekend long, with the exception of Saturday. We might be do a police chase on Saturday. So that's all. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much, T-Rocks. Let's see. Let's see. Recovery Addict. Jimenez is pronounced Jimenez. It's a H sound. Well, I appreciate that. I will probably get it wrong a few more times. Watch for bars and tone. Thank you very much. And we'll go here as well. Yes, I'm nervous, Tony. I'm nervous. I'm looking forward to it as well. I think once we get started, it's going to be awesome. But I might have to just pause for a minute and exhale, because I'll be like, and just won't be able to exhale. But I might have to do that. We'll have a great time for sure. Okay, I'll be working close shift for a call in. Can't wait to tune in, says Ivan. Awesome. Be awesome to have you tune in from the store. Adam says, you missed my now testifying with full info plus correct spelling. Also my resignation because that one was hard. Adam, I did miss it. I apologize. I got DMB twice on that ball. Unpin her now. I apologize for missing the feed. What time Pacific time for the podcast? 9 p.m. Eastern. So is that 4 hours difference or 3 hours? So it's going to be 5 for you, right? I think. What time is it right now where you are, Teresa? Because right now it's 4:30 for me. That'll give you the spread. 9 p.m. Eastern. That's correct. We know you want to be the handsome host. Hey, I've got tough competition. Weather Watch is a bit of a looker, according to several people. So I'm trying to not to not really draw contrast to that. Hit the like button. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's talk about court here for a little bit as we are wrapping up, and see what we thought. It's time for a poll. Really, it's time for a poll. Do we want to fire that off? If you want to hang tight for just a minute, if you were going to skip out, just give me a minute to get the poll set up. We said we would do a poll when the prosecution finished, and I'm doing it now. There we go. I'm going to phrase it this way. Did the prosecution do enough to prove Alex's guilt? And we're talking about the murders, not the financial crimes or anything else that was brought up here. Let's go ahead and fire that off and see where we stand, especially after we've seen the timeline, which was what we were waiting for. Chandra says, don't forget not proven. That would be a no, basically. The way I wrote the question, you just vote no if it was not proven. We're not going to say guilty or innocence. Let's see. The timeline was good. I really like it. I think it could have been presented better. I think they could have done a better job. If they really wanted us to infer something about how fast he was driving, they could have done a digital representation of a car on the map and driving and plugged in the speeds and averaged it over time and overlaid them next to each other like a little horse race, a little miniature horse race. It's like number 2's in the lead, 3's coming up behind. We could see that and compare the drives and see how that one trip differed from the others. I think if they really wanted us to really hang on to something tangible from that evidence, we would have done that. They didn't. So, oh well, we lose that. Let me... got to weird sound in my ears. Okay, that's it. Let's see. Has anyone seen Wait For It? He was here, or she was here. Wait For It was here earlier today, I think. Let's see. Let me go ahead and pin this one. Thank you, DMB. I appreciate that. I think the defense has poked holes in all the state's evidence, but the testimony from the housekeeper about the alibi, no time of death, can't place him at the crime scene at the time of death. Reddick, you should have reached out and offered to help with the timeline for the auto. Too much time wasted on financial issues, but nonetheless, circumstantial evidence shall prevail. Alec did it, says Natural Empress. What is the defense doing using a ventriloquist to pin a pinup girl? What does that even mean? The particular line of question was weird. The state did a good job for what they had, but this case has hung jury written all over it, says Kevin. We come here every day to see your smiling face. Thanks, T-Rox. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Would not be the same without you. Nervous and no pickles. It's a bad combination, Ann. I admit I'm starting off in a bad spot, but I still holding on for a good for a good outcome. Weatherwatch says, Thomas says, we need a code word in case we have to jump ship. Right? We're gonna offline, Thomas. We're gonna incorporate a code word where if either one of us uses it in the dialogue back and forth, we'll know that the other person just wants to bail. It's like we need to just wrap this up, call it quits. No, it's going to be good. We're going to have a good time. My nephew in high school made it to districts. I'm happy. 80s music, man. That's awesome. What sport was he or she competing in? Don't forget notifications. Those are good. Mute the feed. Thank you. Thank you for this, Sunshine Sunflowers. I had not muted the feed. It is muted now. Usually it doesn't have a problem when they end early, but make sure you turn off the sound. Carol says, you're a gem. I'm looking forward to your podcast. Hope to be with you tonight. Going now. Bye all. Oh, Carol, I think I might have missed you because I was a little behind on the chat, but that's it. Why are you nervous? You're just doing what you do every day. I know this is different, though. This is different, Lil Miss. This is a podcast. It's different material, and I have a co-host, and I want to make sure it's perfect for Thomas. I don't want to be the weak link here. Mangy Coyote says, I was gold panning with a buddy this afternoon. Probably missed the breaking point in the trial. I'm more interested in what you found while you were gold panning, Coyote. Show me the pictures. I want to see that flower gold or the little pickers if you got some. That would be awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing different views and still having this be a safe, kind place. Thanks to the great mods and to RA. See you all tonight. Be safe this weekend. Suzanne, you've nailed it. That's what I love about this community. We have people who, are firmly on either side or neither side, and all of that is okay. And we can talk about it here, and nobody gets attacked, and we do it in a civil manner, and that's what makes this place so special. Thank you for contributing to that. Norma says, my device is terrible for typing. Keyboard is in front of a full screen. Oh, no. Sea Monkey, your name looks great in green. Yes, Sea Monkey got a seat here today. That was awesome. Okay, I'm going to... Lindsay says, I submitted the vote and deeply sighed afterwards. Okay, we're going to see what the vote was. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this poll. End it right now. It looks like... it disappeared, so I have to scroll over here. 61% say yes. 38% say no. So I think some of the other bigger channels that have done a poll about this same time had the numbers about 71% one way or the other. So we're more moderate on our decision, I think. You just love the unproven. Okay. Is there any other questions we need to watch before we wrap up, or any questions I have to answer before we wrap up? Let's see. If you can survive the internet, this will be a cakewalk. It'll be fun. It really will be fun. I'm super excited. If Alex is found not guilty, does he get out of jail prior to his next trial? Tom, no, he's not in jail for this charge. He's not being held in jail for this charge. I believe he was originally, and we heard this today during the testimony, we heard that when he was arrested at his mom's house in Alameda, they took him into custody. He was released on bond at that time and let to go to rehab out of state. And then he was taken back in on a financial, I believe, and now he's on no bond right now. Timeline is on Discord if you're struggling. Yes, I think all these documents that we saw today, graphics and pictures and charts and everything is on Discord. Thank you for everyone over there. Toxic, Lil Miss, Amber, Vixen, all the people over there on Discord, and the mods as well over there who make that all possible. Thank you so much. Wallflower says, I don't always comment, but Alex did the murder, just FYI. Georgia Culture just comes in with a pineapple. There we go. Manon, is that French? You'll be there. I think it's French. Yeah, I do have time to go get more pickles, and I think I've got enough money to do it as well, because we got a generous super chat, so we're going to get some pickles. I think any other questions related to the trial specifically? I want to make sure we answered any questions that weren't left out there. I'm quietly sneaking out on a pickle run sometime to be determined this weekend. It's going to be before the podcast, I think. Creative B, Debbie, headed out to a hockey game. Usually I say I'm going to a fight and a hockey game broke out. But good luck. Have fun there. I used to film hockey as well. Once in the arena I was in, I was filming a game. I don't even remember who it was that was playing. I was filming a game. There's a little hole in the plexiglass, and it's about that big, and it's for photographers to take pictures without the reflection, okay? And I'm standing filming. I'm filming through the glass, and it's hitting me like right belly button level, and I got a full speed puck. It barely caught the edge of that circle and nailed me right in the stomach. It was like getting the Heimlich done with a punch. It was, it was quite the impact. A little bit bruised on the tummy after that one. But I got the shot. How many witnesses will the defense call to the stand? Michelle, I haven't seen their list, but they've said they're going to take about a week to a week and a half. So I would be surprised if it's less than about 9 or so. I don't know. They've had 2 already, so 7. Most of them are going to be experts, I think. Let's see. Sent a pic of the gold haul. Wasn't much. I'll take a look. Excited for you. Love panning. Not very good at it though. Are you saying you played goalie? No, Adam. I was a cameraman. I was filming it. It was actually for, I think that one was on TV. It was a TV game. It was at the Maverick Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. I also did some aerial filming of the Maverick once, Maverick Center. Flew my drone over the top of it. There's some stories there. Judging by how they started, defense is sunk. Rowdy, I don't think so. I think defense, now that they're in charge, now that they're steering the ship, I think they can put together a good presentation. I think that they're paying a lot of money for some very good experts who are very good at testifying and will be able to present some information that will inject some doubt. And that's the whole purpose. I find it hard to think that people can kill their loved one. Life is so precious. We only have one life on this planet. Life isn't a rehearsal. Do you think Alec will take the witness stand? I was just thinking this, Michelle. I've flip-flopped on this. Right now I'm thinking no. First of all, if Alec takes the stand, it's going to be Creighton that questions him, right? He's not going to pass that down to anybody else. It'll be Creighton Waters, and I think he will ask some really hard questions that will make Alec look really bad if he can't answer. Or walk him into a lie, just get him to lie on the stand and then catch him in it. And that basically negates anything he could say that was good. Let's see. I think we're good. I think we've got everything. I'm off to the beach while I'm feeling good enough to make it. Peace, love, and your favorite pickles, folks. Douglas, thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody. Oops, I need the sound up before I can hit that button. I'm going to have to do a pickle run. Are we going to notify when the pod starts? Yes, and there will be, just like on the live stream, there's going to be a coming soon button. So if you check, probably here within an hour, it'll be up. I've got to get the new the thumbnail up and everything, so you can click on it and then click the notification button. You'll be notified when it starts. But it will be 9 p.m. We're going to be on time, too. I'm calling that. Mr. Waters, for sure, I agree if Alec takes the stand. good run recently, but had some trouble since. Well, hopefully it's a good game for you, Creative B. Let us know how the hockey game goes. I went to a basketball game with my two boys and a couple others here the other day, and it was wonderful. All of you guys, when you go home tonight, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again, which will be first ever podcast with Weather Watch and I tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you very much. I will change the background for the show. I'm not going to be coming to you from the courtroom. No more of this. It's going to be different. So we'll get that fixed. Thank you very much, everybody. Weather Watch, I'll be in touch with you as well before we go live. So thank you all. We'll see you. Have a good night.